Welcome. We're going to call our meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Born and unborn.
All right, we have our approval of the minutes. The March 18th, 2019 regular meeting minutes we're going to approve at the next meeting. There was a couple of things that need to be fixed on those. So I'll take a motion to approve the March 18th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Announcements and presentations. Mr. Pugh.
Sure, thank you. Just wanted to make a quick announcement. There was a young woman who spoke at Open Forum at the last meeting from the Peer School. She spoke about moving Open Forum up and talked about the library, but she also mentioned that she used the library to study for the Rhode Island National History Day competition, and she mentioned that she would be competing in it next week, which was last week. So just wanted to give an update on that. It turned out that she ended up in first place in the competition in all of Rhode Island, and will be moving on to the national competition in DC in June. And additionally, it looks like Peer Middle School medaled in 3 categories, including 2 first place finishes. So just wanted to congratulate Veronica Sabatino. And that's the name of the young woman who spoke last meeting. So congratulations.
All right, so we have to wait till 8 p.m. for our public hearing, so I'm going to move to the consent agenda. Is there any item someone would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 6 is a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement regarding training between the Narragansett Firefighters, Local 1589, International Associations of Firefighters, and the Town of Narragansett, and a motion to authorize the acting town manager to sign said agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is an agreement that has been worked out. If either the fire chief or the town manager wanted to briefly summarize it for us.
Good evening, Mr. President. Yes, this is an agreement that we've been working on for quite some time. It basically creates a mechanism that we've been trying to achieve, and it's an agreement between both sides, really. It allows for a mechanism to pursue the technical training, the specialized standard-based training that they need for this technical training, as well as a platform for professional development. And it works to meet the guidelines within the Fair Labor Standard Act as well as the CBA. It's something we've been working on for quite a while. We have some specialized technical programs that we need to maintain the training. This creates an avenue for which us to do that. Instead of compensating them at the required normal overtime pay rate, which is time and a half, we worked it out to extend that 20-hour straight time pay clause within the current contract to actually incorporate 40 hours, but the 20 hours additional specifically devoted to that technical area of training, as well as to create an incentivized program to give them the necessary professional training that we've been trying to achieve over the years. The money within the budget is there now. It's within the professional development line item within the budget. It's just that we've been trying to negotiate this for quite some time, and we haven't spent it.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 7 is a motion to authorize the use of the miscellaneous repair and construction services contract with George Sherman Sand and Gravel Incorporated to complete drainage pipe replacement on 3rd Street in the amount of $44,800.
So moved.
Discussion. This item comes from the Public Works Department. All right, and seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item number 8 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new 2019 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 four-wheel drive pickup work truck from National Auto Fleet Group, utilizing the Sourcewell contract in the amount of $31,335.73.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the town engineer. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item number 9 is a motion to approve the recommendations of the Sewer Policy Committee relative to Plat NE Lot 129, Iroquois Road.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
The only thing I would like
Yes,
to add to
go
this,
ahead.
Matt, is Patrick and I just met with this group with the town engineer, and hopefully the council will, as Patrick and I voted, to move this forward. In addition, should we move it forward, we'd like to ask that the town manager work with the owners of the current lot, as they have a deadline of this coming Friday to work with selling it, to make sure they can have expedited as far as being billed for the dollars due to the town. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments otherwise? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item number 10 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, at Section 3.2, Official Zoning Map, rezoning 3 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is a second reading, so unless any new information has come to light since the first reading, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, I think the public might have.
Let's second reading. This is
It's not West.
No.
this is not, no. This is a second reading of Bonnet Liquors,
Oh,
Kingston
yeah,
Pizza.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was that?
Is the floor to comment?
He can come.
Yeah, come up if you would like.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me. My wife, Marilyn, and I purchased our residence at Glen Oaks in 2004.
Yes, so this is the 3 lots that are on a second reading. This isn't,
I'm not up yet.
not till
You're not
eight,
up yet,
not till
Terry.
8 o'clock, yeah.
Would you give me a high sign when I'm
We'll
ready?
give you the high sign, Terry. I
I'm
got
so
you.
anxious to be here, you know that.
Right, so usually second reading, right, unless there's new information on these lots, really don't take comment. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item 11 is a motion to reconsider the appointment of one candidate to the Conservation Commission Tree Board.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, this item comes from Mr. Pugh.
Sure, thank you. So I wanted to put this on as a motion to reconsider because the last meeting we approved the appointment of a new member to the Conservation Commission. That was a candidate that I nominated, and we had a short discussion, and what I mentioned in that discussion was that it was a member that was already currently on the Conservation Commission. It would be basically a reappointment. I realized about a week later that I actually was thinking of a different Brian who was on the Land Trust and is basically a mistake. So I stated that publicly. I want to bring it back up so we could discuss, because we don't want to vote under, false pretenses or misinformation. And I think it makes sense to, discuss it again and consider the applicant. So it's Brian Grieve, not Brian Wagner.
So we've got the motion to reconsider first, and then we'll do the underlying motion. Okay, so for the motion to reconsider, is there any commentary from the council besides that? All All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. And so then it would be a motion to appoint an individual to the Conservation Commission Tree Board. I'd be looking for that motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right, is there a second?
And Terry, the correct name was given last meeting. It was just, okay, so we had the correct name out there. This is really just an administrative thing, Matt, right? This is all this is.
So are we looking to put a different person on now?
I would like to re-nominate him. I just don't want it to be on record with the information that I gave, because it was incorrect. So I've actually reviewed his application, left him a voicemail to let him know what was going on. I think he's totally qualified for this. He works for the Nature Conservancy. He worked at the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. Definitely qualified. You could look through his application, but again, we need to be referencing the correct person, and that didn't happen last meeting. So I'd like to nominate him, and I do support it.
All right, so let's just for the record, put that name on. Who is it?
Yes, it's Brian Grieve.
Okay. All right, so this is a motion to appoint Brian Grieve to the Conservation Commission / Tree Board.
And a question.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, is that board full, or are there positions open?
I don't know if
I actually checked on this. There are 2 positions open because an additional member just resigned. So.
All right.
But right now, so we're basically, Brian Grieve was appointed 2 weeks ago. We're appointing him again. Any other conversation? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 12 is a motion to direct the Community Development Director to study current parking restrictions on Conant Avenue and Pilgrim Avenue and to propose potential solutions to add parking options.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. This item also comes from Mr. Pugh.
Great, thank you. I've been hearing from quite a few constituents recently about the parking issue down in the South End on Conant Ave and Pilgrim Ave, and basically around the different right-of-ways that are popular for surfers and other people that like to access at those points. The issue is that these are right-of-ways. They were established a long time ago, I believe by the state. And the situation now is that there's absolutely no parking at the point of the right-of-way, so at the entry point, and also every single street throughout these neighborhoods on both sides. So no parking on any side of the road on any of these streets. And I'm of the opinion that that's not acceptable. It's just not right. You have these right-of-ways, but you're kind of backdoor blocking access by not allowing parking. If you can't park there, then it can't be used. So it's my opinion that we can figure out a solution to this. So I met with Sean Corrigan and with Community Development Director Mike DeLuca just to kind of brainstorm and see if this is something that we can direct Mike and his department to look into options. That would increase some parking, but also fit into those neighborhoods. So it would be a solution that worked for everyone. So that's the motion.
Anyone else from the council?
Mark, could you maybe give us a little bit more information about right-of-ways and if they're in a neighborhood, who has the ability, the background on this legally?
Well, if the authority that can grant public rights-of-ways to the shoreline is vested with the Coastal Resource Management Council, and they designate what public right-of-ways there will be. Their authority to establish parking is limited to property that is part of the right-of-way and/or state land, so that if it doesn't fall within one of those parameters, it would be left to the town council to set the policy for parking. I think it's important to note that there are many, many rights-of-ways in Narragansett, and many of these small ones, small meaning, I think in that area, I'm not familiar with every one of them, but many of them are just a path down to the waterways. Those are intended to be for the community and for the neighborhood, so that if you live on that street or you live in surrounding streets, you can walk and access the water. It doesn't mean that others can't use the right-of-way, but it wasn't, those small public rights-of-ways, based on what I can gather from the legislative history, weren't intended to be this big focal point where there would be a lot of parking. It was meant to be a community neighborhood type of thing. So with having said that, ultimately it's the town council's, it's within your authority to set the policy as to what parking will be in those areas. Yeah.
All right, is there anyone else?
Would it be possible for Mike DeLuca to maybe pull up the,
Sure.
just kind of an overhead? Would it be possible to just do like a Google map overhead of the area? Okay, thank you.
I got something to say.
Go ahead.
All right, in the meantime, is there no parking signs on both sides of the streets over there? No, I parked over there, and are you guys passing out tickets? I don't remember. Anybody be getting tickets out there?
It's complaint driven. If we get a complaint in the neighborhood of
Right.
no parking, we'll be there enforcing it.
Right. Maybe we should just have parking on one side of the street. That's one solution, you know? But as Rhode Island is, and especially being Narragansett residents, we have certain riparian rights to the ocean and rivers. So this is something that needs to be addressed. That's my statement, so.
Well, I think in that area, Patrick, one of the reasons why there's no parking on both sides, because I had asked Sean this, was contacted by somebody who is here who's an avid surfer, and I asked the question, you know, what's going on with that? But I believe that the road is so narrow, which is why we have no parking on both sides. Sean, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So that parking ordinance has been in effect since 1976. So we haven't really, we haven't had any cause to really examine it from a public policy standpoint. It's always been there, and it's always been a matter of whether we do or don't get complaints to go down there and to enforce it. So if we're directed to tonight, we'll take a closer look at it and make a determination if there's any safe place to park. I couldn't say right now.
All right, thank you.
So there's obviously a lot of people here tonight about this. I do recommend that we probably look at this and maybe have a workshop or something where we can sit down and look at all the right-of-ways, because there's quite a few in the town. And I know it affects some of the neighborhoods, the residents. There are some neighborhoods where it's very tight. It does inconvenience a few people, but I think if we look at it and try to come up with a plan that could work for everybody. In my days, I went fishing, and we used to get dropped off, and then we'd walk or whatever, but we'd make arrangements so there weren't a lot of vehicles tying up these areas. So that would just be my recommendation at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think a workshop would be probably a good step. And, you know, as part of that process, I think that if we approve this tonight and have Mike and his staff look into options, that's something that we can then review at the workshop and see what options are available, what streets make sense. It doesn't have to be parking right at the end of that right-of-way necessarily. There's a bunch of streets there that some are wider than others, some are closer than others to the point, but there has to be a solution. So I think looking into it and then maybe having that workshop to discuss it, you know, I think that makes sense.
I think we need to be really careful because I don't know how many right-of-ways there are around town, but this is going to affect every single neighborhood. So if we open this up, it's a proverbially open the can of worms up to every single neighborhood that has a public right-of-way. We need to be really cautious about this. If you take a look at Great Island or Harbor Island, two examples, there are probably 10 to 15 right-of-ways, in each of those islands, and there's no designated place to park. So if we do it here, we're going to be doing it all over the town. These are residential neighborhoods where people pay high premium taxes to be able to be on the water. We need to be very careful about it. I agree, Patrick. As Rhode Island, we do have rights to the water lines, but we also do have the park that the Newman family had given over, and we do have the availability to park there and have the surfers come down. I just think we just need to be really, really careful, because this could have a big, big effect for the entire town.
Well,
Thank you.
you know, some of these other right-of-ways, there's not a lot of public going down there to fish or
Not
surf
yet,
or whatever.
but this is gonna
There's
make them
definitely no
think.
surf in Salt Pond. I've been down there. I tried, but there's definitely no surf down there.
But there's a place to put your kayak in or go fishing.
Exactly,
It just
but-
is going
but
to
there's-
open it up. I'm just saying we need to be
Yeah.
very cautious about this, because this could be a game changer for all the residential neighborhoods in this town.
Well,
All right, so, go ahead.
Well, I think Pilgrim Avenue, I think that'd be the first road to look at, if you could widen it and add one side of parking. I think that'd be the simplest solution. Certainly Mike Cachico can assist with that, but yeah, we definitely have to look into this, because I know there's beautiful houses down there, but they shouldn't be pushing the residents out from enjoying the ocean. Whatever they do, surf, fish, scuba dive.
All right, so if some members, go ahead. And just everybody who comes to speak, please state your name and address for the
Certainly,
record.
I will. I'm Mary Nadeau, 2nd Street, Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I'm just coming up because I used to own a house on Pilgrim Avenue for 11 years. When we first moved there, first we had the rental home there. We actually lived there in the summer, and there was no parking signs on the street. And the surfers were there quite often, as you said, but they were usually pretty peaceful until we had Superstorm Sandy that occurred. And I guess my understanding was that from the police we talked to, they put up signs after Superstorm Sandy because they couldn't get down the street. The fire apparatus and rescue couldn't get down the street. So they probably, instead of going to like one side of the street, we went to full side, both sides, no parking. But that's what. Before that, people parked everywhere in that area.
Right.
So I just wanted to say, piece of history, that it was full parking before. Whether or not there was signs, maybe there should have been signs, but there was no signs before. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Pilgrim Avenue, we could do that. That's Pilgrim Avenue right there. That's nice and wide.
Good evening. My name is Maurice Mancini. I live at 151 Winterberry Road, north end of Narragansett. Riparian rights is an important thing, and access to the water. That goes back, that's a historic precedent in this state. Now, somebody buys a house down along the waterfront, and it's a big house, nice. It's sort of like somebody buys a house next to the bar, and then they find out they don't like the music, and they're going to try to shut the bar down. Didn't they think ahead?
Right.
Didn't they think ahead? And I think one of the problems we have in this country right now is that it's being run by people that are super affluent, that are they're buying their way. Newport, I lived there, and I watched the condo development in the 80s where the people blocked public access. Now, there was one guy who knew better, and he kept tearing down the signs. Kept tearing down the chain link fences. Perhaps, like you say, one side of the street. But I've lived here for 27 years. Surfing is one of the best things that my son has done, and his friends are loyal, they back each other. To make it so they can't get to the waterfront to protect the wealthy, you're creating a problem. And you're right. There are a multitude of public access spots, and they have to be left available to the public to use. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Metalise Reifsteck, and I've lived in South County for about 35 years. I've been a property owner in Narragansett, on and off for more than 20 years, currently owning rental properties in the town, as well as having owned the Gnarly Donut on Boone Street. I'm a realtor. I'm also an avid surfer. I've been surfing in Narragansett for almost 15 years, as has my family. In the past 2 years, as a realtor, I have sold 5 homes, both to primary and secondary home purchasers who chose to relocate or buy a vacation home here in our community, specifically because of the amazing surf breaks. And not surprisingly, because they have grown to love and connect with our surfing community. Narragansett and South Kingstown are surf and beach towns. We have been written up in multiple magazines, including well-known publications such as the Surfer's Journal and Outside Magazine, in large part due to our outstanding New England surf breaks. Long gone are the days of surfers being just a group of renegade teenagers. In the lineup, I'm paddling and I'm catching waves next to moms with their kids, the lawyer from Wakefield that just closed my last real estate deal, the ER nurse who stitched me up a few years ago after an accident. I surf next to my friend, a young dad who spent his whole life surfing and living in Narragansett and wants his young daughter to have the same rights in the future. And yes, the corporate businessman who drives up from New York to his Narragansett beach home to spend a weekend surfing at his favorite break. And those teenagers, they're still around, but they are opting to surf and spend time outdoors rather than being at home playing Xbox. As a surfer, we support the economy in multiple ways here in Narragansett. Aside from taxes, we pay as homeowners. A cup of coffee and a bagel before the morning surf, a fabulous dinner out with friends at some of the restaurants. Nothing beats a cold frosty beer after a surf session. We have several local surf shops that thrive on the business from surfers coming to our town and state to catch waves. And it's important to note that the Break Hotel in Point Judith was not accidentally named. Personally, a significant part of my income is derived directly from the sale of homes to surfer clients. My concern is that without access and parking, we will begin to lose some of the economic benefits of one of our greatest natural resources here in the Ocean State. A bigger concern for me, however, is we are starting to undermine the beautiful relationship and bond that so many individuals have with the ocean. I long for a solution and a dialogue, a respectful conversation about how we can create a solution for the lack of parking at public right-of-ways so the ocean can be enjoyed by all, not just some. In essence, if we cannot park at these access points, then we do not truly have access. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Jason Howell, 116 Westmoreland Street. I just wanted to point out a little access area that the town had created on Gibson Ave. At the end of Gibson Ave, there's 2 driveways that people were turning around in those driveways. The town of Narragansett put in a gravel area for people to back down and turn around in that area, in that 3-foot space between the road and the actual property lines. I suggest that you do something towards that. When you were saying about the one side of the street, one side of the street would be great for parking. Maybe it would be a time limit for parking so people can move and have access to, not 2 hours, maybe 4, maybe a little bit more than that. But also to create a gravel area there so that we're not rutting out areas, we're not getting, stuck in those areas, and create those areas for people to actually be able to park and be off the side of the road so that you don't limit the access to police and fire. It's been done in other areas in the town, like I said in Gibson, for that reason that people didn't want people to turn around in their driveways. So I don't think this is something that is too hard to do. I definitely welcome a workshop on this. I think there's a lot of people here tonight with some great ideas. So I encourage the council to do such. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Matt Ferrara, and I'm not a resident of the town, but I've been coming to Narragansett for about 40 years as a surfer, and you obviously know that you support 3 very robust surf shops. You support a surfing industry, and currently your surf breaks are pretty much at capacity, and you have all different types of watercraft, and you have people basically almost running over each other. So if you were to limit the parking in certain areas to try and reduce the surfing, essentially you could frame this as a safety issue. You want to open up as much of the beach as possible, especially surf breaks, to spread out the surfers so that, number one, they're not running over each other. And from what I know about Connet Ave, it's a very user-friendly wave. It's good for beginners. It's good for stand-up paddles because the waves come in and they roll gently. And if you're going to limit the access to these breaks, you're going to cause overcrowding at other breaks. So you should consider the safety aspect of limiting surfing in those areas because the other places will be more crowded and you'll have more accidents. As far as people walking down from Point Judith, that would probably be my go around to this problem. And if you have surfers walking down these narrow roads, surfers, it's basically a recreational activity. We don't mind walking a half mile to get to the surf. It's all part of the exercise, but you know very well that those roads are narrow and you're going to create almost like more problems by causing people to walk into those areas. Coming from Westerly, what we do in one part of town, which is Watch Hill, is we go to a stickered window system. It's called the Larkin Hill Pass, and that's designed to let people come into a very busy part of town, the village of Watch Hill. The Larkin Hill Pass is issued by the town of Westerly for free, and it allows residents to park for 3 hours, whereas in town you can only park for 2 hours. And it gives the residents a chance to go into the town hall, get issued a pass, and use about 12 or 15 dedicated spots that aren't open to the general public. You have to be a resident. As well, you can take a town beach pass in lieu of the Larkin Hill Pass, and essentially you could use that same system in that area. Starting this year, you could issue maybe 15 or 20 dedicated spots, maybe issue 500 or 1,000 passes only to town residents, and that might be a solution for this year. You can easily print these up and have them issued by beginning of summer. The Larkin Hill system operates on a seasonal basis. The pass is required from May 15th through October 15th, and it might be like one solution until you find a better balance between the property owners and the surfers and the out-of-towners. As an out-of-towner, I'm going to have to...
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to wrap for a couple reasons.
Yes, sir.
One is I want to
you.
check on if someone can, the stenographer, is she here? All right, come forward. Yeah. So as she's getting set up, go ahead, Patrick, and then I see some, but we have to at 8 o'clock do the hearing, so we're going to let our stenographer.
I think I got a temporary solution. Why don't we why don't we let people park on the north side of Pilgrim until we figure this out temporarily? Is that something everybody can agree on?
Well, we still have to do,
Right.
I mean, it'll still be voted on, right?
I know,
So,
I know that, but is that
it's not going to happen tonight, so we'll get, but it's an idea. Yeah. Conrad, no, actually, no, you come up, yeah, and then you might have to wait till after the hearings. I know, but 8 o'clock is the public hearings. Go ahead.
My name's
Welcome.
Vincent Mancini. I live at 151 Winterberry Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I've been in Narragansett my entire life. And just hearing that last gentleman talk about that parking pass system, like the Narragansett Town Beach parking passes, I find that upsetting and unsettling. I think if we're talking about public right of way, but you need to, I think it's great to have a pass available to residents, but I don't want to hear that that's going to be a pass you need to pay money for, like the Narragansett Town Beach. If you need to pay $200 for a pass to stick on your windshield, then it's not a public right of way. If you want to be in this for the revenue and you want to talk about protecting the rights of way, then I'd like to see more tickets issued for littering. Littering destroys the right of way. Surfing does not destroy the coastline, does not destroy the right of way. Neither does fishing, neither does anything that people might want to use these access points for. Parking ticket at Pilgrim costs $35. You can write a ticket for littering for up to $1,000. The car's gone as soon as you move it. The trash that gets thrown around that's left there a long time, animals choke on it, our coastline goes from beautiful to destroyed. I say we focus more on that than how much money we can make selling passes to park at public access points.
Nobody's.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Matt, we can't temporarily let people park the north side of Pilgrim right now?
I mean, you could put something forward on that, but the motion is to direct the community development director.
Our stenographer's ready.
And I mean, we could say we want to schedule a work session.
I'll keep it really brief. Okay, so thank you for coming, all right? Point Judith is a coastal resource for everybody. That's the way I see it. It's
Conrad, can you state your name and address?
Oh,
and this is the last speaker before the 8
yeah, I'll be
o'clock.
quick. All right, Conrad Furla. Actually, I moved to Wakefield because I couldn't afford Narragansett, but that's okay. But I grew up here, okay? So it's a natural coastal resource. It brings a ton of money in, people from all over the country. It's in all kinds of magazines. The whole peninsula itself is unique. For example, Montauk. When you get to Montauk, it's blocked off, and you have all the access, and it's a natural park. What we've done is overdevelop Point Judith in reality. Now, that's already happened. That's fine, so be it, right? But we can't ignore the fact that it is what it is, all right? There's tons of beautiful land over there. There's waves on every corner, every nook, right? And if we look at preserving that, all right, that is an economic driver for the entire state, all right? Rhode Island's a comparative advantage, all right? We're between New York City and Boston. New York City is the center of capitalism for America, and Boston is a center of education for the planet. We can't compete with that. What we have is our natural resources, and that's why people come here, and that peninsula is very unique and means a lot to everybody in this room, and there's thousands of us. So that's all I'm going to say.
All right, thank you. So we're going to pick this conversation, we'll pick this conversation back up after our public hearings, which under law we have to hold at 8 o'clock. So our first item, if you're ready. Okay, so our first item for 8 o'clock is a motion to schedule a public hearing for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance to consider adding a new section regulating the cultivation and use of marijuana for medical purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, the date targeted for this would be scheduled for May 20th, 2019. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And then a motion to refer the proposed text amendment to the Planning Board for review and recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So this is, the Planning Board will come up with a recommendation for us, and that's what this motion's about. So is any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is a motion to hold a public hearing on an application for a transfer of an alcohol beverage license from Whale Rock Restaurant Group LLC, doing business as Tortuga Restaurant, to High Tide Restaurant LLC, doing business as High Tide Restaurant. Assessor's Plat C, Lot 319, 21 Pier Marketplace, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
So moved.
It's a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Want to see if the applicant is here. Come forward, please. Are you an attorney for the applicant?
Yes, I am. My
All right,
name is
welcome.
Joseph Lamagna. I'm an attorney at 2417 Mendon Road in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. I'm here representing the applicants.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a tough act to follow. This is an application for the transfer of the existing license to a new restaurant with a different motif featuring Thai cuisine. The applicant is Vienkam Vangpakdi. We call him Sam. And Mrs. Vangpakdi is here. We call her Kyo. Mrs. Vangpakdi has a Rhode Island food service license. She has experience. She'll be the person in charge of the kitchen. And we have already filed for an application to the health department to get an inspection of the premises. With your approval, we do have an option on the lease, which is for 5 years with options to renew. And we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. I'm good. Any questions?
When are you guys planning on opening?
We have everything in place. As soon as the licenses and inspections are ready, we'll be ready to open.
Sweet. All right, thanks.
All right, is there anybody here to testify regarding this application? All right, going once, going twice. If there's none, then I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved 5-0. And do we have a motion on the application?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0.
Good luck.
Good luck, Sam.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Next is a motion to hold a public hearing to consider rezoning 6 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map. Is there a motion to open that public hearing?
Motion to open.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. The properties in question, I see Mr. DeLucas come forward, are Plat NR Lot 146-G on Boston Neck Road, Plat P Lot 292 Westmoreland Street, Plat P Lot 293 Westmoreland Street, Plat NK Lot 3-15101 Riverdale Drive, Plat H Lot 37 155 Rodman Street, and Plot L Lot 282-1156 Point Judith Road. Go ahead, Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the council. Tonight, we're here to look at 6 lots as described by Mr. Mannix, and this is, as you will recall, a very similar process to the one that you just adopted a final ordinance on for 3 previous lots. Combined, those 9 parcels were identified in the Town Comprehensive Plan, which was approved in 2017, for rezoning. And let me give a brief background on that process, just to refresh your memories and for the edification of the public. You may recall the comprehensive plan was initiated, the rewrite was initiated in September of 2012. It was a 4-year project involving about the first 2 years we took 2 years to analyze the conditions of the town and drafted a report called the baseline report. That report was our stepping off point for looking at policies and programs and new designs for the town, looking 10 years and even 20 years into the future. So that plan was completed in actually 2016, sent to the state of Rhode Island, and sent back to us with several comments, which we made changes on, made revisions, improved things, and had re-voted on in September of 2017. So one of the key points in that plan, as you all know, was the land use map. The land use map is probably the most important component of the plan because it gives us a colorized roadmap, and that's why we call the plan the roadmap, for growth and development of the community. This is the plan. It shows the entire town, And for those people not familiar with the color coding, the yellows and browns are residential areas, the reds are commercial areas, the blues are institutional areas, the grays are industrial areas, and the greens are natural areas. So, and you can tell by looking at, I brought a better laser pointer this time, Ms. Lawler.
Thank you.
By looking at the north end at Bonnet Shores, Metatuxet, Petaquamsket, highly, densely developed residential area. Narragansett Pier, also densely developed residential area. And then the south end with Eastwood Look, Scarborough Hills, Cedar Cove. So we've got our 3 nodes of development in town. So we've just passed we just approved the 3 other parcels that was President Mannix had mentioned, Kingston Pizza, Bonnet Liquors, and the medical center on right on the circulator. And we have these 6 remaining parcels that we need to bring forward. Keeping in mind, these were vetted, all 9 of these were vetted through the process that took us the 4 years and 39 public hearings. Were approved by the town planning board and then also approved by the town council. So essentially what I'm doing here is mop-up duty and a little bit of housekeeping. So let me take you through each of the sites and describe what, not only what the proposal is for the zoning, but a little bit of background on why each site is proposed as such. So this is the list of the sites, and Council President Mannix identified them as, these are the lot numbers right here, and this is the current zoning, and this in the right-hand column is the proposed zoning. I won't spend a lot of time on that because you're going to see each one individually. The first one is NK Lot 3-15. It's up in Riverdale, and as you can see, it's kind of a large lot surrounded by a lot of smaller, more densely developed lots. This one came to us by the applicant, by the property owner, as a request to rezone from R80 to R10, and his rationale was, even though there's some wetland back here, it's a very large lot with some significant developable area up front, and is more akin to the properties across the street, and even over here in the cul-de-sac, than it is to these big lots over here. This one lot right here that's kind of stuck in the middle is an open space piece of land owned by the Riverdale Association. So this has been requested to be changed. Well, this is the land use map as shown in the plan, and the dark brown indicates high density residential, and the yellow indicates lower density residential. So that's what the plan is telling us to do. And here is the ad that was in the newspaper indicating a request for rezoning to R10. Next.
So before you do what I'd like to do is see if the applicant is here and if people want to maybe talk to each one, maybe do each one at a time, because it could get confusing if people come up. So is the applicant here for that property, Riverdale?
Mr. Murray is here.
Okay. Do you wish to speak? No. Okay. Okay. Does anybody want to testify regarding this property? Okay. Thank you. All right.
Okay,
What's
we'll
the
do
next
them
one?
one at a
Matt,
time.
hey,
All right.
Matt, can we ask questions to Mike about
Sure,
each property
yeah,
as we
yeah.
go? Okay.
So on Riverdale, I'm sorry, council members, do you have questions on Riverdale? Go ahead.
You want to start? Okay. All right, Mike, so I'd just like to confirm some of the zones, because I don't think I even knew what these 6 months ago. I probably didn't know what an R10 was.
I'm sorry I got ahead of myself, but
That's
go ahead.
fine. So R80 is 1 acre minimum or 2 acre? 2 acre minimum,
2
right?
acres.
Okay. And to rezone it to an R10 would be?
A quarter acre.
Quarter acre per lot. And how large is this property?
This property is over 3 acres, about 3.5 acres. So it complies with R80, and there's a house on it back here in the corner. But this upfront parcel here, part of the parcel, is high and dry. It's right on the Riverdale Drive. It has 200 feet of frontage. If it were rezoned to R10, quarter acre, that lot would be divided in half, and the applicant would be able to subdivide out one additional building lot.
So out of that entire property, there could be one additional lot?
Yes.
Just because of the frontage, right?
Because of the limited amount of frontage.
Frontage, okay.
That's
and
right.
as it is now, it can't be divided at all because it's not it would have to be 4 acres.
Yeah, and even if it were 4 acres, it doesn't have 400 feet of frontage on a street, so
Okay.
it's not dividable.
All right, so the end result of this would be one additional home?
That's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Patrick?
Yeah, can we just vote for these as we go along?
Well, no, because we have to close the hearing,
Oh,
and we don't have an ordinance even on,
Okay.
right, for changing them. So so we can't. No,
go right
we
through.
haven't even. I figured it would be good. It would get confusing if we go through the 6 and then people pop up. So for each of the different ones, so I'm trying to make it clear which of the properties we're talking about.
Sure.
So any other questions on the Riverdale lot? All right, so what's your second one?
All right, we're going from north to south, by the way, in our sequencing. So the next lot is at the Bonnet Shores, near the Bonnet Shores gas station. Oops, wrong one, I'll use this one. That's the Shell gas station, and the lot in question is this vacant lot just to the north of it. This is the St. Veronica's Church. This parcel of land is about 3/4 of an acre, and it's currently zoned, I got to look at this up, R10, but as you can see, there's business here, there's business here, there's business here, there's business there. So the property owner came to us and asked, could this be zoned for business? As we went through the process, Planning Board gave some consideration to that and the surrounding context. This is a copy of the land use map. It's a little different than the other ones that you'll be seeing, that you saw before and now. But this is really good because it's got the land use legend on it. So here's the gas station, here's Eddie's, there's the Edge Realty, and this is the parcel that's designated red commercial. So this is what was in the newspaper and what the planning board and the council what the planning board had indicated was acceptable, changing from R10 residential to BB general business. Questions?
Is the applicant here for that property? No, okay. Does anyone wish to testify regarding this property? Yes.
Hi, I'm Lorinda Willis, and my address is 1029 Boston Neck Road, which is...
Excuse me.
Could you just be sworn in by the solicitor,
Would you
please?
please raise your right hand?
It's a public hearing.
Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're in those 11 townhouses that are directly to the right on that map. There's 5 there and 6 there. There's terrible runoff there from that property of water. We can hear that water rushing through our property and through our galley system constantly. And a retaining wall that's at the base, it's a big drop off there right at the edge of that property, right where that yellow line is coming down. It's a huge drop off. And there's a retaining wall down there that is collapsing from the water that's already coming off that property. So if you add a hard surface up there, we're going to be in dire straits for those townhouses that are right there. So we're very much against this. We voted on this years ago. I didn't see the ads that he mentioned were in the newspaper for this new plan, but it is really a huge insult to our lovely kind of grassy area that we have, and it's terrible, terrible water coming off there. And I'd like to know, what is BB general business? How large a business can that be? And how many parking spaces? We have a difficult time even getting out of our driveway on Boston Neck Road when the church is in session. and they park on that road, we can't even get out of our driveway on Sundays. So what does BB mean? How big a business?
We can have Mr. Jewell come up. BB versus BA. BB is more regular business, and BA is kind of light business. There's a shorthand for it. So
Yeah.
BB is regular. It's more regular.
That's exactly correct, Mr. President. BB is a general business zone. It allows a wide range of uses. There are, counting special use permit uses and uses by right, there are 140 potential uses in town. And that runs the gamut from retail to service to restaurant. Well, restaurants are allowed by special use permit. So it runs the full range of possibilities. In the past, we have taken certain locations where we had concerns about traffic generation or noise or other potentially onerous issues, and given some thought to limiting that list down in the rezoning process. Something we could consider for this site. But I would want to remind the council that if the property is not rezoned, it still has property rights. It's zoned R10. It's about 30,000 square feet. So the owner would have the right to ask for up to 3 dwelling units, and how they would be configured on the site and how much runoff would be created there is as unknown as what amount of runoff would be created by an as yet unknown business. So in either case, the most important thing to remember is that the town has a stormwater management code, section 7.7 of the zoning ordinance, which requires that whenever any lot is developed in town, that no more stormwater runoff can go onto the neighboring property than the current base condition allows at the moment.
And who makes that evaluation?
Thank you.
The town engineer would make that evaluation in response to a developer's engineer's report.
And how would
Ma'am, if you could just speak it to the microphone so we can get it for the
You have to direct
stenographer.
So-
Yeah.
You have to direct your questions there. I'll answer when he tells me to.
Oh, okay. So if that's the case, how does the abutting property find out about the plan?
The same way you'd find out about any changes
You've got
going
this
on.
direct mail.
And if you're within the radius of the of that. So if this zone change were to pass, and even if it doesn't get approved, if any changes are made to the property and it has to go before the zoning board, then those condos are in that radius and you'd be notified.
Is this particular property included in the Bonnet Shores Fire District?
It is, yes.
Because I know they didn't get any notice the last time that real estate thing was changed over.
I know.
And I believe that's still in contention.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Van Germish. Mark.
Please state your name and address.
Yeah, Richard, VanGermeersch, and I live at 55 Osceola on Mount View Road, which is right next, across the street from this particular lot.
Professor, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually walk this area and/or bike it daily, sometimes once, sometimes twice, sometimes thrice. It rhymes. And I am concerned with my safety. I am not safe now, and this would make me less safe. Let's not kid ourselves. This lot at R10 is totally useless. It's been for sale for years because it is useless. Leave it the way it is. We do not need another business. And to think there are 3 houses that can be built, there is another threat by the owner to frighten us. We do not need another access to Boston Neck Road. It is our sidewalks have really become driveways. And trying to walk on these beautiful sidewalks means dodging all sorts of activity in business because the sidewalk becomes a driveway. And this is adding another driveway, and we just don't need this. We've got to be concerned about safety. Obviously, I'm more concerned about my safety. And I find this adding to this unsafe environment.
Thank you. All right, Chris, name and address.
Christopher Mannix, 9 Aroostook Trail.
Chris, please raise your right hand.
AROOSTOOK.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I wish to echo the sentiment of Ms. Wallace, who already spoke earlier. There are significant concerns in the entire Bonnet Shores area about flooding. Many of our roads are already flooding when we get a typical rainstorm. Not a superstorm or a 5-year storm as described by CRMC. What that means is any water movement that comes out of the sky is already flooding us. If you add pavement or do anything else to that, it's only going to increase the runoff that Ms. Wallace quite accurately identified to the attention of the council. We are at the bottom of the South County watershed. What that means is that significant amounts of water that collect in the north end of Narragansett, as well as parts of North Kingston, run down Boston Neck Road almost quite literally, and then spill out and spill all over Bonnet Shores. We do not need to develop that area any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, let's move on to our next property. What's your third property, Mr. DeLuca?
This is the property on Plat H, Lot 37. It's just a short way away from Town Hall. That's Town Hall right there. This triangular lot is adjacent to the high school and the middle school. And this lot was brought to us by the owner, who was concerned, who was attempting at the time that we were doing our comprehensive plan to consider whether or not he could subdivide and maybe get a couple more house lots out of it. As you can see, the area to the east of it is densely developed. This is where we're standing right now, is an R10 residential district, a quarter-acre residential district. And then you can see over here on the other side, south of it, less dense, but residential development in the R40 1-acre area. This particular parcel, for whatever reason, and I've never dug all the way down to the beginning, was zoned public. And it has had a house on it for about 100 years, a farmhouse. So there's no way you could have mistaken it for a public property. How it got that designation is anybody's guess. I'm thinking it has something to do with when the town acquired these properties here to the west to build the high school and middle school campus, that maybe it was rezoned by accident, or maybe the town purchased it and rezoned everything and then sold it off as excess and forgot to rezone it back to something residential. No matter what it is, it's an anomaly and certainly needs to be corrected. So we are suggesting that the land use map designates it in yellow, which, as you know now, is low moderate density, and we are suggesting that it be changed from public zoning, which limits its uses to pretty much public buildings, to R40, to allow that the construction that's been on the site for 100 years would be conforming with zoning.
Thank you. Is the applicant for that property here?
I don't believe so.
All right. Any comments or questions from the council? Oh, he is here. Wait. Well, please come forward. Yeah.
You have to be sworn.
Okay, sure.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Desmond Smith, and my address is 155 Rodman Street,
Mr. Smith, would you please raise your right hand? Sure. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. My wife and I own the property. We bought it towards the end of last year. So I don't know if technically I'm the applicant or not. But I understand that there's an anomaly and it's being corrected.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone wishing to testify for the Rodman Street lot? Anyone from the council have any questions or comments on this lot?
I just had a question for Mike. Mike?
Go ahead.
There's a stream running through there, right?
Yes, sir.
And is it pretty wet, that whole area?
The majority of that lot is wet, yes.
Yeah, you may be able to get, what, one lot out of there? So it isn't like we're, you know...
That lot is going to, if the Smiths do want to divide it, it would take quite an effort because if you look real close down here in the bottom of the picture, it has a very limited frontage right there.
Sure.
Rodman Street ends right at their property. So there would either need to be a roadway brought in to create frontage, which, as you know, they need 100 feet of frontage for every house lot, or some sort of a variance.
Yeah.
So
that stream runs right down the middle, pretty much.
The stream runs down the middle like this. So yeah, there's a little dry area to the east side, and there's a more robust dry area to the west side where their house is located. And there's a little bit of a bridge that they drive over now.
It's
to
a heavy
get to the
lift
house.
to do anything with it. Yeah.
So yes, if anything, there might be one more house lot out of that, but we're not even sure that could happen.
All right, anyone else?
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to the fourth lot.
Yeah. Fourth and fifth, Mr. President, because we'll take them together. It's lots 292 and 293 on Plat P. This is the land use map. As you can see, let me use the right. It's this lot and this lot. That lot right there is zoned industrial. This is the highway garage. I should have had that up first. I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies. So here's the highway garage and our salt shed there, our salt shed. The tower is right here, the radio tower, and the town owns this property. As you know, the tri-party sewage treatment plant is across the street. Town of South Kingstown owns a third. We own a third. The University of Rhode Island owns a third. And that property comes all the way over to here. Then you've got the storage buildings and then Mariner Square. Glen Oaks condominiums is here to the west. When the town planning board reviewed this site, it was, they understood what we're looking at here, a very transitional space. And the location and size and scale of the Glen Oaks condominiums was not lost on them. Yet, as they looked at the property, they saw that there's, I can't turn on the wetland overlay right now, but there's a wetland that runs right through here, going northeast to southwest, right about on the western property line of lot 292. And then there's another wetland here that kind of bisects 292 and 293. So the developable part of this lot is in the middle. With that in mind, with that knowledge, they weighed the options of should it stay as an R40, a 1-acre residential lot, or should it be designated something else? Their conclusion was that it didn't seem to make sense to have a residential lot, for a single-family residential lot, across the street from a public sewage treatment facility. So they opted to zone it what the existing lot here is next to the highway garage, IA, Industrial Limited. And so they designated it as industrial there, gray, on the land use map. And I'm showing the two of them together so it's easy to have the conversation, to change the two lots, 292 and 293, from R40 to Industrial Limited. And I will sit down because I know you have some comments coming.
All right, any comments or questions from the council?
Just one. Sorry, Mike. How many uses are there in that IA? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We'll get you a skateboard.
That's okay. How many uses are allowed? There are probably more uses allowed by special use permit than allowed by right.
Right.
If I had to guess, I haven't counted them all up. If I had to guess, it's probably on the order of 50.
Right.
But more are required by special use permit, meaning they have to go to the zoning board and be vetted through that process.
And then neighbors would have the chance to speak about what's going there, location, and how far from the...
Yes. As you can see, that notification radius map right there shows a 200-foot radius, and all the property owners within that 200-foot radius would be notified of anything leading toward a special use permit.
Is there anything worse than being across the street from a sewer plant? I mean, asbestos reclamation factory, is that available in this zone? Or?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think we have that in our
I can't see anything worse than being across from the town sewer plant, so. Okay, I'll stand down.
Any other comments?
Can you bring up the last slide, Mike?
Sure,
where
can.
it shows the condos and the woods and that?
Sure.
Yeah. So obviously I wasn't on the council when the planning board put all this together, or the comprehensive plan, but did people actually go out there and walk the back neighborhoods of those condos?
I think you'll probably hear that from the neighbors in a few minutes.
So
I didn't do any field checking of that kind of thing.
So my concerns would be, if I had bought a condo there or somewhere property in town, and we're gonna make that commercial, industrial, or whatever, 7 days a week you can have an operation there with equipment, whether it's a body shop or a lawnmower, landscaping business that goes in or whatever. Were there any other avenues looked at here? I know Patrick doesn't think that somebody would want to put a house there, but if you look just northeast of that, there's a development there that I don't think I can get a house in there for much under 400,000. I don't think they'll sell me
Try
one.
700.
Oh, 700.
That's Thayer Avenue, directly across the street from the
So-
high school, yes.
So with this piece of property, I mean, are the avenues available to the person that owns this to be able to do something that we've looked in this town as like affordable housing or something?
Well, that's a possibility. That is a possibility, Mr. Lima. Right now, it's zoned R40, and it's a little over 3 acres. So they have a by right allowance to propose 3 dwelling units. If they wanted to do something else, like a low moderate income housing project, they could ask for density relief on that. And of course, the site plan would have to be vetted through the affordable housing law and through the planning board.
Just so people understand affordable housing. Affordable housing, last time I checked, somewhere up around the 265, maybe 270 range, 1,100 square feet.
For sales price?
Yes.
I'd say you're in the ballpark, yeah.
Somewhere in there. I don't have the exact number because it changes. So in that particular area, would it qualify? I mean, I think it's a state thing. Would it qualify for the affordable housing of 20, 24 houses? I don't know the number. But I think if I lived in the condos and I had a choice, I'd be looking at something with residence versus something with industrial. That would just be myself. Maybe some of the people will enlighten me on what they think. But
right. The way the affordable housing law works is that the applicant, the property owner, comes in with a design plan that he or she thinks will work on the site. They have to commit to a minimum of 25% of those units being deed restricted for either low mod rentals or low mod sale. The other 75% could be market rate. And that number can go up. It can, some of the affordable housing developments we have in town, one of them actually is a 100% affordable. That's Camp Jory, Clark Point. And some of them are around 50% affordable. So the 25% is a mandate from the state law. But the only restriction is that the property be designated residential, or to have the ability to place residential property on it for the applicant to at least qualify procedurally to bring forward a low mod income development plan. It doesn't give them the automatic approval. They still have a lot of hoops to jump through.
Right, and I'm just using that, but he could also develop some more condos in there if he chose, right?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Mike, before we move on, can you please define the difference? I know in our town we have a lot of problems. Section 8 housing versus affordable housing. Can you talk about the income bracket that somebody in affordable housing would be in?
Yeah.
What type of...
Sure. The term affordable that we use in pretty much all of the development plans we look at is related to the income, the family income that is being earned by the buyer or the renter. And we talk about people being at 80% area median income, 100% of area median income. In those cases, that's the range in which we are looking to see developers bring in developments. So an example would be a family of 4 at 80% of area median income makes about $65,000 a year. A family of 1 at 80% area median income makes between $45,000 and $50,000 a year. Those numbers are fluctuating, so I'm estimating. And in terms of Section 8, there used to be Section 8 housing that people, applied to live in. And then, of course, there are the Section 8 vouchers, which people acquire and can use toward their rent. That's a whole different program. Those folks have to show that they are of a lower income than 80% area median income. I'm not sure what the ceiling is on that. My guess is it would be 50 or 60% area median income. And when they do qualify, they get vouchers from the federal government, in the case of vouchers, that will allow them to pay only 30% of their own income for their rent, and the voucher pays the rest.
So when Rick is saying we could take a look at affordable housing here, he's talking about teachers, he's talking about firefighters, he's talking about people with good paying jobs.
Town planners.
Thank you.
Yeah, town planners.
Thank you. Mr. Pugh?
Yep. I had a question for
sorry.
Mike. One more question, Mike.
Sure.
Couldn't that pendulum swing the other way? Like if the property owner wanted to, right now you can put 3 residential?
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
now if the property owner wanted to stick in 6 residential, right? And say 50% are affordable, right? Now, isn't there a state law that says that the state can supersede the town and cram down and force us to put those affordable there? How's that?
Well, the way the law reads is that the planning board has authority over approval or denial.
Right.
If, in fact, the property has not got the physical attributes to fit them, take, for example, the smaller of the 2 lots. This is about a ½ acre, and there's a little bit of wetland right here in the front. So you're looking at maybe 1/4 of an acre of dry land on that smaller lot. If someone were to propose 6 or 8 or 10 units there, and the town deduced through reviewing studies that those applicants submit to us and our town engineer helps us to review, that property cannot support those units, we have the right to deny it based on those environmental
I'm not talking
concerns.
about external obsolescence of wetlands. I'm talking about if that was a clear lot, all ready to go, and you can put 3 units on it, can the state step in and say, well, this guy wants to put, 3 other units that are affordable, so the state can step in and
only
cram
if it's denied.
Right.
And
By the town.
only if the applicant files an appeal with the
Right.
State Housing Appeals Board and the State Housing Appeals Board approves it.
Okay.
So the state can't take proactive action to come down and tell me you have to approve that.
Right.
They have to go through the steps.
Right. Okay.
One thing, I think we should just remember is that these are all options that are possible, but ultimately this is not the zoning, but what is done with this land when it's zoned residential is up to the property owner. So just as a general philosophy, I will always support increasing housing in viable residential lots. So I've walked this lot. I think it's actually pretty nice. It is across from the sewer plant. that doesn't mean that people can't live in new houses on this lot. I mean, people live in the condos, which are not directly across from the sewer plant, but pretty close. People live in the development on the other side of the sewer plant, and like Jill said, those are upscale homes. So I don't really see an issue with people with demand for those houses if they're built. But like I said, Narragansett's one of the biggest problems in this town is a lack of housing inventory. So I support houses on that property and not converting it to industrial. So,
that's good. Is the applicant here? If he wishes to speak.
Yeah. Mike.
Oh, he's snuck up on me. Floor is yours.
Welcome.
Hi, James Durkin, Ocean Road, Narragansett.
Mark.
Oh.
Mr. Durkin, please raise. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I will.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, there was an opportunity to put some of your property up to maybe have looked at for a comprehensive plan change. I'm lucky enough to own different parcels. This was one of the ones that they decided that didn't make sense, maybe, as an R40 zone. So I went through the process, and I don't, like Mike said, there was tons of meetings. I didn't attend them all. I didn't testify really at any of them. But it just went through its course, and it came back to the council, and it went through that course, and now I actually thought it was a rubber stamp type thing, but evidently it's not. So if you want to kind of know what we were thinking, it's my wife and I that own the property. So we were actually thinking like indoor tennis court, indoor recreation, maybe an indoor surfing operation.
Yeah, there you go.
Like maybe a wave pool to let little kids learn how to surf or something.
As long as you have access.
But we certainly don't want to do anything that, disturbs the neighbors. I was the developer of Glen Oaks. My aunt still lives there. I did the whole plan. I know there's a wetland in the back of Glen Oaks. That's why we didn't come back to that property. The industrial zoning increases the setbacks, and it has required screening in the ordinance itself that the planning board has to look at before they approve anything. Like Mike said, most of the things are special use permit. And actually, those two are two different applications. I think they should be treated separately. So, I mean, if the council thought that the smaller lot, maybe do that, IA, and I've heard other people say, well, cut it in half and do the west side IA and do the east side residential. I mean, those are things that, we're not against discussing. Ricky, you said something about a chop shop, or, that's not my plan. We don't do that.
And you know that and I understand that it's not your plan, but again, as you know, and I know you don't like to, everybody likes to say, Jimmy will sell us some property. Jimmy doesn't like to sell his property. He likes to hang on to it. I understand that. But if you did sell that property to somebody because they made you an offer that you couldn't really refuse later in life because you said, you know what, I'm taking the money, they can do whatever they want if it's zoned commercial or industrial. And that's one of the things I look at with the council, with those condos. And you and I chatted about that. I think that, if I owned a condo there, I'd be like very concerned about what's going to be in my backyard if I'm sitting on the porch looking out there. And if it's a 7-day-a-week operation or 6 days a week, it kind of takes away from, what's there now. And the condo, I always look at it this way, the condos were there, and then you have the land. I know people complain about the sewer plant on the northeast side, because they do. There's a lot of complaints on that. But again, the sewer plant was there, and then they developed. So those people should have known that when they developed those houses, that that sewer plant was there. These condos were there, and now we're going to think about developing something there. I don't know what the intent of the people that live in Glen Oaks are, but I'm sure you'd be reasonable to say if there was somehow, whether it's more condos, affordable housing, or something that would help the town, and you could maybe work on something like that, I think that maybe that could be one of the solutions. We definitely need homes for families that can afford that home that's, 200 range, definitely, in a Narragansett. So, just my idea, just my thoughts.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, in fairness to me, I guess that should have been talked about, 3 or 4 years ago, and we probably have a solution now. But so anyway, we're here, and we're here to say yes or no. I thought it was a thing that was required to bring it into conformance. But so I guess some things have come up here since Friday that I didn't expect to come up. My attorney's in Florida. I have some questions, and so I'm not in no rush to do anything with that property. I don't have it under agreement. I don't have a plan. So if you
so we can continue it.
If you decide that you want to continue, I'm not going to be disappointed, and I'd like to hear what the residents have to say, and then I might know a little bit more about what their concerns were, because I never heard any before,
Okay.
And, just think about it as two different parcels, because they are two different parcels. And one is, actually, yesterday when I went there to meet with somebody, I parked actually in the spot that the septic trucks park in, which is on my property, actually, in front of my property. And I was like chased away, and a guy was photographing me, for parking where the septic trucks park, So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'm not sure if affordable housing is the right place. I don't know if it's the right place for affordable housing, but I guess that'll be seen. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Lot 293 is the larger one, correct?
I can't read it from here.
Which one's the bigger? 292 is 2.5 acres? Okay. And 293 is smaller. I just can't see it, okay.
Yeah, me neither. But
all right.
I can look it up.
Thank you. No, I know. Thank you. All right. All right, is there anyone who wishes to testify regarding either of these two lots on Westmoreland Street? Yes, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Mark.
Thank you for your patience. My name is Terry O'Connor. I live at 320 Westmoreland Street, Unit E2.
And you're going to be sworn in. Yeah.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Thanks for taking the time, and thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for your great information about this property. My wife and I, Marilyn, who's with me tonight, purchased the property in 2004. We're year-round residents. Marilyn and I oppose the proposed zone change of Lot 292 from R4 residential to light industrial 1A. We are confident that all 32 owners of the residents at Glen Oaks share that sentiment. The Glen Oaks condominium complex of 32 multi-level townhouses will be negatively impacted by the zoning change in several ways. Safety is a concern at any time when you're living in a residential area. The increased traffic that would be caused by an industrial complex going in there, in addition to what we have right now, pose increased safety concerns. Residents and family members of those residents who walk on Westmoreland Street
on a normal course will be impacted by any increased traffic. In addition, all the emergency vehicles that in the town of Narragansett drive the full length of that road to get to the Public Works Department to tank up on a daily basis. Increased traffic is going to impact their safety as well. It's a safety concern without question. In addition, we feel that property values will be impacted negatively. Now, Lot 292, has long served as a buffer to set the Glen Elks complex apart from the commercial and industrial parcels along the north side of Westmoreland Street and our public works neighbors at the eastern edge. It has helped to maintain a true residential feel. Replacing it with any sort of industrial structure 100 feet from the backyard, from the property line, would have a negative impact on property values and tax revenue to the town. It's also a quality of life issue. The view from the decks of Building E, that's where I live, which abuts Lot 292, is a clear image. And do we have a,
Yes, Mr. DeLuca, we had two photos, one submitted by Mr. O'Connor, one by Mr. Lamb. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, no, yeah, okay. So this is the view from the decks of Building E. That's our view 7 months out of the year. 5 months, it's all full of foliage, and it's quite beautiful. Well, as you can see, if you put a large industrial building right in the middle of that cleared lot in the back, it certainly is going to impact what we see every day. We get up every morning, and that's what we see every day, and that will change forever once an industrial building of sorts is planted there. That certainly is a quality of life issue for me and the residents of Glen Oaks. Just imagine if a storage facility, a wind farm, fish processing plant was built 200 yards, right in your backyard, 200 yards from your home. How would you feel about that? There would seem to be better options in the town of Narragansett than to place anything like that in that community. There doesn't seem to be a viable reason to change the zoning of Lot 292 from residential to industrial that would benefit both the town and the 32 Glen Oaks resident owners. Joe Lawler and Rick Lima, they were kind enough to walk the property with me recently, and they got a good look at what this is all about, what that property is all about, and what it can offer to the community. Maybe, as has been discussed, one should consider a moderately priced housing option for the site. The town of Narragansett seems to be experiencing a stagnant population period, growth population period. Overall property values put owning a home in Narragansett out of reach for many. There aren't many affordable housing options in our town, and maybe this is something we should consider for there. All I'm asking you is please take all that information into consideration before you vote on moving forward with that initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes.
Yes, come forward.
In slow motion today. Good evening. My name is
If you could just turn to the solicitor. Yep.
I'm sorry?
Name and address, and then...
Yes, my name is Dan Fanning. I live at 16 Whitney Court, Narragansett, Rhode Island. We've owned a condominium.
Mr. Manning, excuse me. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, thank you.
We've owned a condominium. My wife Susan and I have owned a condominium at Glen Oaks for over 20 years. Every time you, my purpose in being here obviously is to ask you to not rezone that property from residential to commercial or industrial. Every time there's a rezoning, there are winners and there are losers. It's pretty clear that if you rezone a piece of property that's presently residential, it is inherently more valuable if it's rezoned to industrial. So there would be that clear winner. There would also be clearly some losers. The 30 or so homes, condominium owners in Glen Oaks would be losers because their property would be degraded. There are also some other losers. I heard tonight a reflection of the fact that the town really needs some medium market affordable housing. And if that property is rezoned industrial, that's taken from the market as a potential use to deliver that kind of housing. So the town becomes a loser. It looks like there's an awful lot of losers and not many winners. Beyond that, I guess I would echo what my neighbor just asked you to think about. Think, if you would, that you all, I'm sure, live in very pleasant neighborhoods, and you live next to a vacant lot, and you have a nice home, you enjoy it, brings you a great deal of joy, and the lot next to yours is vacant, and it's zoned residential. And someone comes along and says, I would like to buy that lot and rezone it industrial. How would you feel about that? Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Stewart. I live at 320 Westmoreland, Unit C2.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I left Rhode Island when I was 35 years old and didn't come back until I was 65. And I used to come to Narragansett when I was a boy with my parents, and it's an area that I always wanted to live. So my wife and I left after I retired and came back to Rhode Island and bought a condominium in Glen Oaks. And one of the reasons that we bought that condominium in Glen Oaks was because how it was set with the woods all around it, how quiet it was, and how the upkeep in that property is pristine. And the other day, I went into one of the units when I heard that this was a proposed change that was going to go to industrial. I went into one of the units that was right in back of that lot. And you actually can see right through that as plain as day. And if that was rezoned as industrial and something was put in there, it would be a tremendous eyesore, I feel. And I definitely would feel that it would have a huge impact on the value of those condominiums that are in there right now. Also, that road, Westmoreland Street, that goes down to the maintenance area, is just a two-lane, very small road. It's not a wide road at all. And you have, right now, you have septic trucks going down here all the time. You have police cars going, maintenance trucks going down in and out of there all the time. And I can't imagine what it's going to be if that is rezoned as an industrial with more traffic going down there. And as this other gentleman said, for the safety, I don't, because I walk that area, and I would actually be afraid to walk on that road. because I don't think it would be safe, and I have grandchildren that come over there and visit, and they're out near the area, and I would be very nervous that, that this, something could happen. So I'm really against this change. I would like to see it residential, stay residential. I want it to stay the same as it is now because I think it's a beautiful area in there, very close to the beaches and everything. And I don't think it's not fair for the people that live in there that have put a lot of effort and money into those condos, as I have, to update them and put more value into those condominiums, to have something industrial come in there that would become an eyesore. So I'm very much in favor of what this gentleman said here about the housing. And I just hope that you people think this out real, slow and easy, and to make sure that you make the right decision. And just put yourself in that condominium complex as an owner, and how would you feel that if this was changed with the traffic, the noise, and what you're doing to the values of that property? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Joanne Lynch, 320 Westmoreland, B2.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm also a member of the Glen Oaks community. I've been a resident for just under 3 years. It is not a rental property. It's not an investment property. It's my home. And I'd like to just restate what my neighbors have already stated, that it really is an issue of safety. It's an issue of quality of life. And it's an issue of unfairly lowering our property values. So I encourage you, I don't see a reason to change it from residential, and I encourage you to keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Lynn Masson, 320 Westmoreland Street in Narragansett.
Please, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for listening to us. I appreciate all the good comments that have been said both by you up on the podium and my neighbors. Once again, we know that probably something will be developed on the land. We're not trying to keep it all the same. And I do feel that there's no reason to change it from residential to industrial. It will affect the 32 homeowners in Glen Oaks adversely, and I don't really see a compelling reason for it. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, if there's, yes, sir.
Jason Howell, 116 Westmoreland Street.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Just wanted to put up two little side notes to this. You do have a trail down there. It's called Crooked Brook Trail. A lot of people walk. I live on Westmoreland on the other side, 116 Westmoreland. You have a lot of people walking through my neighborhood as well as the neighborhood that they're talking about down to that trail. So there is a lot of that traffic as well as the automotive traffic, the public works traffic, the septic trucks and everything else. I'd also want to say that there is wetlands, and whether it's residential or industrial, I'm not sure of the scale of both, but the wetlands, I could tell you, affect all of us, even downhill. There's a lot of water that's running down. It seems like a lot of these things we've talked about also have wetland concerns about runoff. So if there's a giant industrial area there, a footprint with a giant roof, maybe some additional parking, I don't know the way out between that and a residential area, but I could tell you we should look at the runoff as well into those low-lying areas. That includes where I live. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
So Just a couple things. Mr. Stewart, I believe, testified that he wouldn't want to walk down the road, you know, because it's so busy, you know, and the trucks and the, you know, traffic. So, I mean, it's like a weird thing. It's like, you know, it's, what do you do with that property? You know, it's like everybody thinks it's too busy and traffic and not safe, but you want to put more affordable housing there. So I don't know. Is that the answer? The other thing is, just remember, there's 2 parcels here that we're talking about. One's abutting the IA, and the larger parcel is made up of 4 lots, Mike. See that pink one right there? So that is 4, all these lots were platted like in the 1800s, and I thought they were all an acre, but I guess they're less than an acre. So it's possible that, you know, it can be divided in a way where, you know, residential stays towards the Glen Oaks, you know, and we get some affordable housing. So anyway, what I'd like to do is somehow get some type of, to go back to the drawing board if I can, and get some time to do this if appropriate. Oh, and I walk that trail. That's a cool trail. I walk that all the time. You can walk all the way from my house to Poncho's. And I do it, but it doesn't go through my property. So, but it's an awesome trail, and you know, I don't want to interfere with that at all. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Well.
All right, so do you want to move on to the next property?
Yes, and there is only one more.
All right. This is the 6th one.
Yes, this is Plat L, Lot 282, at the intersection of Ocean Road and Point Judith Road. We all know that area quite well because of the location of Iggy's new chowder house right there, and of course Aunt Carrie's. It's been there forever. This is a very interesting site. This property is partially zoned in business already. Let me show you the existing zoning. So this is the zoning as it is today and has been for 20 years, I guess. I'm guessing. And everything in gray is business. So there's Aunt Carrie's, there's the ice cream shop of Aunt Carrie's, Iggy's. And you can see that this lot, which is outlined in yellow, has both BA, limited business zoning, and R10, residential zoning. It leaves the owner in a unique situation as it stands today. He has the right to build a house. He has the right to do some business, but he doesn't really have the right to do both on the same lot. So, he either has to choose one or the other, or ask for it to be rezoned. So he came to us and pointed out his dilemma. It was again vetted through the comprehensive plan process, the town planning board. They embraced his concern and suggested that the western half of this lot could pick up the BA zoning so that it is all unified under a single designation. And that owner is here also.
Great.
Save the best to last. I'm at. All right, so, you know, basically that parcel has always been business, commercial. When I was a kid, there was a Doughboy place there. There was a train track that went around the whole parcel, and pizza place. And then, I don't know, I think what's left of it is that little cottage there. We rent that as a 1-bedroom. You know, I just want to enhance the area. I don't necessarily have a plan. Ricky asked me, what did I say, Rick? I don't want to make that up because all these people that are here. What did I say?
Possibly rent surfboards and beach stuff and things like that.
Rentals. You know, it's really, I'm not trying to build another hotel. I would be divorced tomorrow. That's not the plan. I've talked to the neighbor to my east. He's a gentleman that I know. He has no problem with what I'm trying to do. He respects what I've done down there. It's a rental property to the north, and I actually own the property all to the north as well. So it might just stay the way it is, but it gives me an opportunity of doing something that makes sense instead of building another house across from the new Iggy's, which, you know, this is all commercial across the street. So I'm not going to waste any more time.
Thank you. The adjoining properties are Zone BA. Right, does anyone, any comments from the council?
So I just have a question. Mike?
Yes.
So where Jimmy's property meets, you see the residential square, and then you see the BA abutting it.
Mm-hmm.
How big is that piece that's residential?
I was afraid you'd ask. I don't have that number on me, but I suggested it's somewhere between a 1/4 acre and a 1/2 acre.
So if that was zoned, which it is now, residential, and a line was put between that property and his commercial property, he could build a small house, right?
The BA part of the lot, I'd have to look back at the numbers, may not be large enough to be divided. BA needs 20,000 square feet, so it might not be large enough to be divided without getting a variance. But we did have that discussion with Mr. Durkin. Would you want to divide it and have a house here and a business there?
So what you're saying is the BA actually isn't big enough for him to, without that
I don't have
piece.
the numbers in front of me, but I believe that's what brought us to this conclusion.
Mm-hmm. So if it was, he would be able to come
Another
and-
option.
He'd have that other option.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to testify regarding this application?
David Mahoney, I own 41 Green Meadow Drive.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mahoney. I was just concerned on one thing, well, a couple things. The area there on the right that's already zoned all business, that's already got the zoning, so nothing can be done. But Green Meadow Drive, as you see the pink street, at the very end, it turns in between the last two houses. It's a paper street. And based on my understanding from maps that I've seen from years back when I bought the house back in the late 80s, that Green Meadow Drive actually comes right up to and abuts, I guess it's that L292. It doesn't end where it's shown on the map. So I have two concerns. One, I think that the residential house lot that's there would make the, you know, almost like a perfect triangle, that should stay residential. Been hearing tonight that they need residential housing. And my other concern would be that there would be no access from Green Meadow into on the backside. And I thought I saw maps that showed a right-of-way of Green Meadow coming right through to Point Judith Road, so that if the town ever wanted to extend that road, it would come right out. So if that right-of-way or paper street does exist on the town maps, then there's actually a split between the two properties. We couldn't connect them without eliminating the paper street. So that neighborhood right there doesn't have any protection from the business zoning, so if anything is done there, I would request some kind of buffer zone put in and no access allowed from Green Meadow on the backside. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the count?
Hi, my name is Dana Chofie. I live at 31 Green Meadow Drive, Narragansett.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm a permanent resident, on Green Meadow Drive. My house is right behind the area where that zoning is to be changed, or is hoping to be changed. Right there. Part of the reason I'm objecting to this is because the old Iggy's that was originally on that corner has been empty for 2 to 3 years. As well as that, they're less than a mile up the street at Knowles Way. There are a number of businesses that are empty, that have been empty for years. And as Conrad had said earlier when we were talking about surfing, this area is, Narragansett in and of itself is beginning to get extremely overdeveloped. The traffic in this area is getting to be increasing, is not only increasing, but it's getting very loud. It's very difficult sometimes, anywhere between the time of probably from May through October, to sleep with your windows open. Between the Bond View, which I don't have any problems with the Bond View, but we have motorcycles now going up and down that street all the time. We have a numerous number of cars, more than before, because of the new Iggy's, that are not only going up and down the street all the time, but that actually are parking on both sides of that street all the time. Coming down from Route 1A, going around, sometimes it's actually dangerous because people are just crossing the street and there are cars, you can't even see people crossing the street. So this is getting to be extremely busy. To turn that into, let me ask a question before I forget. What is limited business? What does that mean?
We have three categories of business: BA, BB, BC. BC is waterfront business, so I won't get into that. BA is limited business, and BB is general business. There are very few differences between them in the sense of lot requirements. Both BA and BB require 20,000 square feet of land to build on. But the BA zones typically serve neighborhood and low-intensity commercial-type developments, where the BB zones have the more high-intensity developments and the kind of uses that people might travel a long distance to go to. That's the intention. The number of uses that are allowed in BA is only a little bit less than BB. BB allows up to 140 by right or special use permit. BA, I think the list is somewhere around 110 or 120.
So, as of right now, we have the Break Hotel, we have the ice cream shop, we have Aunt Carrie's, we have the Bond View, we have the new Iggy's around the corner, we have Charlie O's. This area is becoming extremely, extremely busy. Our property values are going to decrease significantly as well. That neighborhood has turned out to be quite a nice little neighborhood. People are taking care of their properties on both sides of that neighborhood. That is an area where David got up and talked about this, where Green Meadow ends. I don't know if that was ever supposed to be a street, but most people use that area for walking. So my concern, for the most part, is it's going to be a huge change for those of us that live there. It's going to increase the amount of noise. It's going to increase the amount of traffic, where there already has been a significant increase in traffic. And I don't think it's what any of us envisioned for that part. My fear is what kind of business would actually go in there, because there is no... The houses that are directly behind that are so close that there's no buffer. So we're kind of all on the same page in that area. We're hoping to keep it as it is. Unfortunately, it already is partially business, but I think keeping it the way it is would definitely at least keep things the way they are and not increase the amount of traffic any more than it already has, particularly during the times. It's not so bad when the students are here, but once the summertime comes, it is very noisy and it is very busy. And for some reason, I'm not quite sure if there's anything going on there, but there's always police down in that area as it is, and I'm not sure if it's because of the traffic or accidents or what. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, and before you come forward, any comments from the council on this?
Just one, Matt.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Just, excuse me. So, Mike, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Since it's partially business now, BA now, Mr. Durkin could build a business unit or a business structure on that property currently if he wanted to.
That's right.
Okay. So, but he could not build a business, something business on the right and also a home on the left. He couldn't do
Right.
that. All right. Okay.
Yeah, he's in that sort of a dilemma. So, and that was, I think, the primary piece of logic that brought the planning board to the conclusion of suggesting that it be zoned a single designation. But understand and appreciate all the comments we've heard, not only on this particular lot, but the 5 previous lots. I've been taking copious notes, and whatever you folks want to do, we'll, we and my staff will do everything we can to fine-tune this thing as necessary.
Well, thank you. 2 of the lots, the Riverdale lot and the Rodman Street lot, we didn't hear any opposition. So what I was going to see was if we could have a motion to instruct the solicitor and the assistant solicitor prepare a first reading of an ordinance to change Plat NK Lot 315, 101 Riverdale Drive from R80 to residential to R10 residential.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so discussion on that. Again, this would be instructing the solicitor and assistant solicitor to go forward with a first reading of an ordinance for the Riverdale Drive lot. Is there any opposition to that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion approved 5-0. And then similarly, I'll look for a motion to instruct the solicitor and assistant solicitor to prepare a first reading of an ordinance to change Plat H, Lot 37, 155 Rodman Street from P Public to R40 Residential.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on that. All right. And that would be preparing that first reading for the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. For the remaining 4 lots, if council members wish to make motions on those, that's fine. If people want to continue that, there's different things that we can do here. One is I think we would close the public hearing with regard to the Rodman and the Riverdale lots, and then we could continue the hearing on the other 4, because one of the things that we're going to have to do is we're going to be amending the comp plan. Right, so we're going to, at the same time, if any of these fail, we have to amend the comp plan, which is fine, but that's going to have to be prepared for us as part of the motion. So what are people's, why don't I put on a motion and we can have a conversation, just a motion to close the public hearing with regard to the NK Lot 315, 101 Riverdale Drive, and Plat H, Lot 37, 155 Rodman Street.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so discussion on that. So basically, we closed the public hearing for these 2. We've given the instruction on the ordinance within the context of the hearing. And then the other 4, what's everyone's pleasure on the other 4? How do you want to handle that?
Well, I mean, Jesse and Rick already spoke to this. As far as any building constructing on near any residential property, I'm against that. The condo, certainly out near St. Veronica's, we have the same thing. We have condos behind them, and in this particular lot, I'd like to carve out that if we could, and not make it a industrial, the entire thing. So, I mean, I don't know, Mr. Durkin's asking for continuance so he can have an attorney discuss and reevaluate and potentially go for words that I think everybody up here wants to hear, affordable housing in certain areas that make sense. So if he wants some time to be able to do that, I'd be willing to give him some time for that.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Yes,
Are you going to take a vote on closing the first 2?
I'm doing this conversation. I'm going to take a vote on that. Yeah, but I figured it'd be also good to, in the context of this, to have this conversation. Because if they want to go one by one, see what I'm saying?
Understood.
That makes sense. Terry, Mark, is that procedurally? I know it's not perfect, but.
Yeah, you asked for a motion, seconded. I think you should just take a vote on closing it for those 2 matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so so this is to close on, again, Rodman Street and the Riverdale lot.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
All right, well, it's already been moved. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Okay, so I can take either a motion, really it's up to you guys, but we have to have, do you want to take each of these individually now? Do you want to continue some of them? What's the pleasure of the council?
Why don't we take each individually and find out how we feel on all of them, and then we can
Okay.
decide that?
Okay, so let's go, we'll start with a motion to change Plat NR Lot 146-G, Boston Neck Road, from R10 residential to BB general business. You can do a motion to approve that or reject it if you prefer to reject it.
Just waiting for Mike to get it up here.
For some reason,
This is the one on Boston Neck Road that's in the Bonnet Shores Fire District. So you can make a motion to approve or reject, whatever your pleasure is.
I make a motion to reject.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Well, since the owner isn't here, I think we should continue this, give him an opportunity to, discuss it.
Was he notified? Was the owner notified,
Yes.
Mike? Okay.
All right, any thoughts from the council?
Well, generally, these zoning changes, as far as going by the book of the comp plan that we took, how many years, Mike, to write up? 4 years on a 10-year plan, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of thought put into this. I know all these different lots, for whatever reason, we're here tonight. I think if you're gonna reject this man's property and take away his rights, as important, property rights as is important as riparian rights. So I think the owner needs to be here to represent himself or have an attorney.
If we reject it, then we would, in 2 weeks, we bring forward the motions to amend the comp plan, correct?
I would think we'd want to wait for the appeal period to end first.
Okay.
And then I would be introducing a scheduling request for a public hearing to do the amendment to the comp plan, land use map, yeah.
One point of clarification, and Patrick, is this the lot that you currently have for sale?
Yeah, I'm recusing myself.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm recusing myself. You don't have to check with me on the law. I know what the law is. I know what I need to do. So
Sure,
I'm
but I
recusing
understand with
myself.
all transparency, I just want to make sure everyone knows that you are recusing yourself from this matter. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you for that legal advice. Thank you.
Not legal advice, information.
Christ almighty.
Any other thoughts on this property? Well, I do have questions, Matt. Tonight, I didn't know about, this lady came up and we talk about runoff. It's not the issue of the town about the runoff, it's the property owner. So if this lady has a lot of water running into her condos, that concerns me. That concerns me what's going to be developed on this piece of property, and I think that needs to be addressed first. The other thing is the Bonnet Shores Fire District. We've had other pieces of property. They were in the Bonnet Shores Fire District, and I think at least the Bonnet Shores Fire District, they chartered before the town, and if they have any input, I think that they should be able to look at this and give their input and information regarding this, because you're changing a residential piece to a commercial piece. And I don't think, other than the new one that went in on the corner, there's any commercial pieces of property in Bonnet Shores, other than that one that just went in. So, for me, I could table this. I don't have a problem with that. Continue it until another time, until the owner comes. But there's some situations here that need to be looked at, definitely.
All right, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I would probably lean towards tabling as well.
Continue. Table it.
Fine, okay, continue, as opposed to rejecting. I actually see that area of Boston Neck to be like purely business. Even the homes that at one point were residential have been rezoned as business. I don't see how that lot is really ever going to be developed into a house in that spot between the gas station and the church. Like I said, I do want to see homes being built, but that's just not a viable spot for a house, in my opinion. Anyway, so instead of voting to rezone it, I would be totally fine continuing and learning more about it.
What's everyone else's thoughts? All right, so are we going to take each individually, or do you want to just continue all of them? I'm just asking that question.
Do you want to go through the rest and then
Sure,
we can
yeah.
do that? I mean,
So, all right, so do you want to take a vote on the motion to reject? Or do you want to?
I think we're probably either going to continue or, I mean, I'm fine with continuing that as well.
All right, all three.
Okay, so, so right now we have a motion to reject on the table, so does someone want to change that to continue this one?
Motion to continue.
Discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Oh, that's right, I can't vote. Sorry, recuse, sorry.
Motion approved 4-0 with 1 recusal. All right, then we get to a motion, I'll just say a motion regarding, and you can say to approve or reject, a motion regarding Plat P, Lot 292, Westmoreland Street to be changed from R40 residential to IA industrial.
Motion to continue.
Okay, that's fine.
Second.
All right, discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. A motion to continue the public hearing regarding Plat P, Lot 293, Westmoreland Street, from R40 residential to IA industrial.
Motion to continue.
Second.
All right, discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. And then, is there a motion regarding Plat L, Lot 282, 1156 Point Judith Road, to be changed from R10 residential to BA limited business?
So moved. Motion to continue.
Motion to continue. All right, is there a second
I'll
for that?
second that.
All right, discussion, all in favor. So this is to continue these 4 public hearings, okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Thank you, everybody. Motion approved 5-0. Next is a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, yes, sir.
Not on that matter, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. I'll allow you to vote. I have a question to ask you when you're done voting.
Why don't you do it within the context of the motion, so we're not talking, yeah.
I'm not going to be here for the next council meeting, so if you'd like to place.
Well, we didn't put a date on it, so some people, right, so we'll work with the town solicitor and the clerk on a date and then notify
Beautiful.
people about the continuance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, next we return to item number 12, which was the motion directing the Community Development Director to study parking restrictions on Connet Avenue and Pilgrim Avenue. And it seemed there was some sentiment in that discussion about scheduling a work session. I don't know if that's part of what, looking at these, at parking on these 2 roads, we can continue the conversation and continue to take, not testimony, but comments. But it's kind of hear that. So what is everybody thinking?
So I think for me, Matt, I need to research this a little bit, and there's going to be more of these right-of-ways that may come up. So I think we definitely need to look at it, have a workshop, and figure out a solution, because there needs to be a solution. It needs to be fair for the people that have residents there, but it also has to be fair to the other people that wish to use these right-of-ways, and I'm sure that something can be worked out where, again, both parties can come to something that, you know, is best for the town and best for the neighborhoods. That's how I feel about that.
All right, so a motion to schedule a work session regarding the current parking restrictions on Conant Avenue and Pilgrim Avenue. Does someone want to make that motion?
Someone asked me to read an email.
I know. Can I just get a motion from people? If you don't want it, do it.
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second for a workshop.
Can I just ask, before we second that?
Yeah.
would that be in replacement of the motion to direct? Because if we're going to have a workshop, I mean, what are we, we're not just going to show up one night and start talking about it. We need to have proposals, options to discuss, things that should be shown on, you know, the screen that we could talk about. So the motion is to direct for the research. And then after that's done, we would then have a workshop to present the research to the public, to talk about it, to see what the options are. I think both make total sense, but I just don't want to get ahead of this motion, which is kind of the first step in the process, in my opinion.
So we can do an up or down vote on that, but with that, we'd have to give some instruction, and I don't know if everybody has like a real solid place of what they want to instruct to happen. I mean, Patrick's mentioning one.
Well, yeah, I think if we...
And I don't want to do the workshop now, right? So,
But I think temporarily, we can
which is fine. So you can vote on the underlying motion, right? Or we would have, or you can change it to the motion for the work session. But that's up to you guys. And I don't know if I have a second, do I? On the work session? Councilor Murray seconded. Okay. So, but it's fine. You can call for a motion on your underlying as well. I mean, that's fine. We could say, we can talk about the benefits of a work session, but I don't feel that we have a, like, what's the instruction going to be? We've got to instruct.
Well, the direction is to have community development look for solutions, look for options, present them. Nothing set in stone. Show us all the options. Let's look at them and let's compare them. And I think that no one's more qualified, you know, on staff than that department. So I think it's the natural way to go, just to get the options.
I actually see it the other way around, though. If we have the public workshop, then we have people giving what their thoughts are, and then we can make direction at that point to Mike, should we choose to go. Should we vote on this tonight, it would be like we're accepting this and going forward. When right now what we're saying is let's take a good look at what people, Rick made a point, I made a point, we want to take a look at how this is going to affect all the other neighborhoods in town. So we had a workshop, then we'll have more information, and then, as Matt said, then we can take that information and provide direction to Mike for him to come back. So I think that needs to come first before the direction.
Yeah, I mean, whatever gets it moving forward, I'm in for. So.
Well, either way, next meeting, I'm going to put on an agenda item where you can have parking on Conant and Pilgrim on one side only, and you can park on the other side. So, I mean, I think that's something that needs to be done temporarily till we sort all this thing out, because otherwise, you know, these guys are going to be getting parking tickets and something they've been doing for years, and it's just not fair.
Just one second. All right.
So we have a motion on the floor.
Right, we have the motion regarding the work session. Just dates, Terry, that we would look at that. What's an off? We have the budget things coming up. I would think that early May off Monday. What's that date, the 13th? Okay. All right, so maybe the 13th at 6:30 p.m. for a date for that. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Steve Saravo, 25 Louise Avenue. This is my neighborhood I've lived in for over 20 years. It occurs to me sitting here tonight that we're jumping the gun a little bit. Just from a personal standpoint, after living there for over 20 years, you know, it's a slight nuisance to the neighborhood. And I say a slight nuisance. You know, people come in, they park, you know, 95% everybody's very respectful of the area. They come in and they leave. Primarily, I think we're here because of a very select few neighbors that are actually complaining.
That's right.
Think about it. This neighborhood is 50% occupied in the winter. I'm a year-round resident. 50% of my neighborhood is also a year-round resident. So that's half of the neighborhood that's actually in place, and a much smaller portion of it that's raising this issue in the first place. I'd like to just give one short historical perspective. In the 20 years I've been there, I can still count on one hand the number of times the police have come through and enforced this parking with this enforcement. There's a couple of people I know who have been here longer. This place has been utilized in that way for over 60 years, I'm sure of that. Whenever we deal with all sorts of things in growth and building new houses, everything is a precedent based on what's gone on before that. You get a variance based on precedent. The precedent in this case is that we've been allowed to use that under these circumstances essentially the same way for 50 or 60 years. It seems really ridiculous to me that one or two people can change that because somehow they're just not happy with what's going on. I'm here to support that, we find an answer that says we slow down the enforcement in essence, find out how many people really want it to be that way. And, I'm not sure what you would do to do it that way, but I wanted you to know as a resident, it's a non-issue to most residents down there. So, and I stand in support of them having access.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Colin.
Colin Hines, 88 Tupelo Trail, Narragansett. I'm a resident here as well as the chairman of the Surfrider Foundation Rhode Island chapter. On behalf of our membership of the Surfrider Foundation, I'd like to advocate that we are in full support of enhancing the access to these two surf spots. We have a membership base, 100 strong throughout Rhode Island. And this is a very important issue where, like has been mentioned already, there's a lot of development that goes on along the coast. These coastal accesses are constantly threatened in a myriad of ways, even if the access is allowed. Like has been mentioned, the backdoor ways of limiting all other aspects of possibly getting to those places fairly easily. So it's only really limited to a handful of people who can really get down there. Maybe the people who live there can get down there pretty easy, but it's public. It's not meant for just a select few, it's meant for all. It's just the definition of the word. So that is my stance as a chairman of the Surfrider Foundation in Rhode Island chapter. And as a personal resident here, in Narragansett, my own personal stance, I've been in that area a number of times, and those streets are very, very narrow. And when I was on the zoning board myself about a few years back, I can remember that there were properties that would come up before us, and I remember that being commented on during those meetings as well. So, it's just a tight area, and I liked Mr. Murray's suggestion of, even if it's one of those things where, as time goes by, maybe it's something where you readdress also the width of the roads down there in a way, just because it's already tight as can be. And that could be a safety issue as well, in terms of line of sight as well as people walking up and down the streets. You're probably going to want to enhance that area in some way eventually anyway. As well as the homes increasingly getting bigger and bigger, and people with deep pockets who are basically trying to restrict access to the many just for a select few. So anyway, that's my stance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this would be scheduling a work session for May 13th at 6:30. Oh, sir, yes.
My name is Andre Freitas. I live right across the pond in South Kingstown, but I have two businesses here in town. And I just wanted to point out my concern with the limited access to coastal access points isn't just for me, but I have 3 kids. And I love the fact that my kids can access the seashore. And I would hate to think that one day I have to move my family because we're no longer able to access the seashore, and it's because we can't park anywhere near it. And so to me, it's really important to preserve these access points, not just for myself, but for the future generations as well.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diane Hassett. I'm at 8 Schooner Cove Lane, Narragansett. I'm a year-round resident in Narragansett, not far from Connet and Pilgrim. I surf at Connet, not very well, but I'm here to support the motion to look into the parking situation at Connet and Pilgrim, and want to reiterate what Steve said, even though I haven't lived here 20 years. And I know that someone else said, hey, we're in the middle of Boston and New York. I moved from New York to surf in Narragansett, and I bought a house next to the surf, and I want to continue having access to the coastline.
Thank you.
Hi, Stuart Sheehan, 35 Tanglewood Trail, Narragansett. One thing I just want to reiterate is that access is synonymous with parking at this point. I mean, I live in Edgewater. I can't walk to Connet or Pilgrim. And then two, that most of the land here and property values are not on the coast. I mean, they're not on the shore, so people need to have the access to preserve the value in their homes. I mean, I'm 1 comma shy of being on the water, so part of the value in why I bought a house there and why future people will buy houses is because they can access the water and to surf. So,
thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Gobis. I currently live in South Kingston, but I grew up about a half mile from here at 5 Judith Drive. I feel very fortunate. I'm one of 4 generations that have been surf here, and I get to bring my 12-year-old son here. One of the things I want us all to remember is part of being Narragansett, and I went to Narragansett High School, is when you look at all of our license plates, it all says the Ocean State, including the couple of people from Connecticut and Massachusetts that I knew drove here tonight because I see their faces, because I've seen them at Connet and Pilgrim to support this effort here. We all have to be cognizant of that. The ocean has brought all of us here, either residents to surf, businesses that help thrive this community. This community would not be here if the ocean was not there. The fishing that is supported there, the surfing that's here, the surf shops, the restaurants, Bondview, all these are right here that thrive on that right there. And I feel very thankful to this resident that helps support and just say, we all are aware of that and the little bit of the issues that happen. For all of us that park there, we all are aware. We try to be cognizant of where we park. As one person said, it's narrow lanes to make sure we're careful not to go on other people's property. But we do have to be aware of that, so we all are cognizant because it's an important area. It's what brings people here, the tourists in the summertime, all that, what makes this town thrive. We all have to be aware of that and continue to support that, and I hope everyone just keeps an awareness of this, of what wonderful ocean is right here that makes this whole town thrive, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we do have a motion.
So we have the motion for the work session, but if, again, you want to vote on the underlying motion, that's fine too.
I'm fine with it. Let's do the work session.
All right, so that's May 13th at 6:30 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Number 13 is a motion to discuss and correct unauthorized changes to the rules and procedures for the Narragansett Town Council meetings.
Matt, can we take a 5-minute break? I think a bunch of the
Sure.
surfers want to go
All right.
go to bed.
All right, we're going
so
to take
they
a
can go.
5-minute break, and I'll reread that motion.
May 13th.
All right, if everyone can cut to their seats, please. Item number 13 is a motion to discuss and correct unauthorized changes to the rules of procedures for the Narragansett Town Council meetings. Is there a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from Mr. Pugh.
All right, thank you. This is really kind of I consider it a correction, administrative error. We voted on moving open forum to the end of the meeting a few months back. That was a 3-2 vote. What we didn't vote on was limiting the time of open forum, capping it. The old rules had a few lines in there that were related to a limit in time, I'll just give a quick little overview of what used to be in the rules. So here's the wording. However, the open forum portion of the council meeting shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes. But then it continues, it said, if there are any speakers who have not had an opportunity to be heard at the end of 30 minutes, open forum will be continued at the end of the council meeting. So essentially, it's a limitless portion. It's 30 minutes, and that is really only stopped because public hearing can come up, and then any overflow in terms of people wanting to speak, that's done at the end of the meeting. So we moved it to the end, but the new wording for the meeting refers to the 30-minute limit, but then it has removed the extension, which wasn't part of our vote. We just did a very simple movement to the end. So I believe that that should be corrected so that there is no limit to open forum in terms of time.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the council?
Yeah, since the open forum is at the end of the meeting, it's already 10 o'clock. 30-minute, at 3 minutes, you're only going to have 10 people speak. We have 15,000 residents. At 11 o'clock at the end of the meeting, you decide if we're going to continue. Correct, Matt? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's at 11 o'clock, yep.
Yeah, so I mean, if we end at 9:30, then we have an hour and a half to decide if we're going to move forward. If it's like tonight, we have 55 minutes to decide if we're going to continue the meeting in an open forum setting. So I don't think it's necessary to even put a 30-minute time period on an open forum that was previously in the beginning of the meeting. It's now been kind of restricted speech towards the end because a lot of people can't wait or they got kids or what have you. And then putting another restriction on a 30-minute time period, I think, is unpatriotic. So I can support taking that provision away.
Council President?
Yes.
Can I speak?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out the way this happened, it was just a clerical situation where, because we were moving it from the front to the back, it just didn't read properly to say that if you don't speak in 30 minutes, that we're going to move it to the end because it's already at the end. So there was never like an intent to create that cap. It was just a clerical thing.
Right, so the August 6, 2018 procedures, the town council procedures, rules and procedures for the town council said that individuals are limited regarding open forum to 3 minutes speaking time. Such time may be extended at the discretion of the council president. However, the open forum portion of the council meeting shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes. And then it says, if there are any speakers who have not had an opportunity to be heard at the end of 30 minutes, open forum will be continued to the end of the meeting. Right? So those are the two pieces that we're talking about. So what had been removed was the part that says if there's any speakers who have not had an opportunity to be heard at the end of 30 minutes, open forum will continue to the end of the meeting. Because as you know, sometimes we never start open forum until after 8 o'clock when it was at the beginning because of public hearings. But the total 30 minutes has always been there.
Well, because you have.
It's just never really been enforced.
It was because you start at 7:30 and then public hearings at 8. So that's why it was limited to 30 minutes. But there's no reason.
That wasn't the reason. No, it was just a 30-minute cap on open forum.
No,
and you
but
could do 15 minutes at the beginning.
But there is no cap. It says any speakers who are not have opportunity to be heard at the end of 30 minutes will be continued at the end of the council meeting. So there is no cap. There's no overall cap on the meeting of open forum.
It says the open forum portion of the council meeting shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes. I mean, when I was president before, the 3-minute rule I very rarely enforced. People probably remember that, and a lot of people I got criticized for that because the meetings went long. But there's rules, but the 30-minute cap's never really been enforced.
Okay, I'm just saying there's a sentence in here that specifically says any speakers who have not had an opportunity to be heard. I mean, it's right here.
Right, but the 30 minutes is starting from when the clock starts ticking, right? The 30 minutes starts if it was 7:45 because you had, that's how it works.
Are you telling, it says there, anyone who has not had an
Listen,
opportunity.
we haven't enforced the 30-minute rule, so.
Okay, so, but now you.
But it implies that like something was done that was wrong. I mean, the
It had.
30-minute rule exists. If people haven't had enough, you're going to continue it to the end of the meeting.
Okay, so then something similar should be added.
So we
to-
can fix that. We could, I mean, I don't want to do another work session on it, but we seem to have concerns about the procedures. But, okay, I just wanted to, but the cap is there.
But it explains that it's not a cap. It's for that portion. It moves from the beginning to the meeting to the end of the meeting. That's how it was. There was no cap. It was a pause period to then finish at the end of the meeting. The town manager just explained it was a clerical error because of the grammar and it didn't make sense in that wording. There was no cap. Anyone who comes up and speaks at the microphone is going to tell you the same exact thing.
All right, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Carleen Town, Narragansett. I know the consultant for the Love Your Library group wants us to keep rebuttals down and the positive side up, but for me, the time has come to put the boxing gloves on. The change of rules to keep open forum to a 30-minute time limit is another attempt, just like the one to move open forum to the end of the meeting, to discourage a certain segment from being heard. At the very most, without comments from any town council member, and only if each speaker is on the heels of the one before him or her, we can only accommodate 10 speakers in a 30-minute period. As Town Council President, Mr. Mannix, you are the person who has the authority to recognize potential speakers and to invite them to the podium. Here we see your selectivity come into play. Stanley and Richard are always recognized. There goes 6 minutes. I was in the audience one night when Lori Kelly had her hand raised to be recognized the entire time a motion was being discussed. You never gave her the opportunity to speak. Even after Mr. Pugh and Mr. Murray called your attention to her raised hand, you still refused to recognize her request to speak and move the motion on to a vote. This is a democracy, and the residents of this town have a right to be heard for however long they have something to say. I, for one, would be sorely disappointed if the town council members voted to set a 30-minute time limit on open forum. No one person should have the authority to decide who gets to speak and who doesn't. Again, this is a democracy. It is not a monarchy, and you are not the king, Mr. Mannix.
2 minutes left. We still have a minute left.
All right, is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive, Narragansett, obviously. First of all, I just oppose the whole fact that the open forum was moved from the beginning of the meeting, as it's always been, to the end. And it's been pointed out that only 2 towns in the state of Rhode Island have that done. So we've switched with a very small minority group. And one town that had that has flipped their entire council because of that stance. I think to put any time limit on it is just not democratic. I mean, people have things to say. You should be welcoming the fact that people want to have an input. As long as you're respectful, as long as you voice your opinions, there's no threat to it, you should be allowed to speak. And if you want to stay here till 11 o'clock to say something that's important to you, to stay that late, then so be it. I mean, I just think, first of all, it should be restored to the way it was. And if it can't, there should definitely not be a limit on the time for people to have open forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley.
Open forum hog.
Stan Wachowski, Narragansett. You know, over the many years I've come to meetings, I'd say 99% or maybe 95% of the time, 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning of the meeting was at 7:30, between 7:30 and 8, it was more than enough time to cover the 2, 3, or 4 people that come. So I do think that if we look at least 15 minutes before, so sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, if we get 15 minutes available, then you've got 5 people. And very seldom have we had 5 people unless there's a contentious issue. So we should allow people to speak. That's at least 5 people that need to go home because they're too old or whatever the issue is. So let's 5 people talk before, and then the rest of us can speak later. Now, as far as the limit, I think if we're getting into 11 o'clock, maybe you want to cut it off. But I do think it's right to allow all the people the ability to speak here. And we want to hear what they all have to say. And if they got enough gumption to want to stay here at 11 o'clock, they've got something to say. I really wish you would allow them to talk, let them all talk as long as possible, at least till 11 o'clock. So going back to the old style, at least 15 minutes ahead, and as long as you want up to 11 o'clock, I think it's just fair and just. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road, Narragansett. Mr. Pugh just read the statement from the town charter. Mr. Mannix, you twisted the interpretation. That's called psychotic rationalization. I think it's about time that our solicitor keeps our town council to the charter. There's always some psychotic rationalization to change things. It's about time, Mr. Solicitor, that you keep the town council, that they keep to the charter and the interpretation of the charter. And also, this is it's supposed to be a democracy, but it's not a democracy. When you decide that our residents only have 30 minutes to voice their opinion, we should all be allowed to come up and voice our opinions. Just as you voice your opinions, we elected all of you up there. Therefore, you should be listening to your constituents, whether the people that come up voted for you or not. And I'm sorry that you're bored, Mr. Mannix.
I think we've reached a new low when we call people psychotic. I really do. I think we've reached a new low, and it shows the character of the people coming up. I do not personally attack. I've seen the character of these people.
Mr. Mannix, again, you are rationalization. It's behavior. I called your behavior psychotic. But of course, you'll continue to rationalize the way you think they are. And I think your smirkiness,
your psychotic rationalization, I have not attacked, I don't attack people personally. I get it.
That is not an attack.
Psychotic.
No, it's not an attack, it's an explanation.
Psychotic.
Order, please.
Well, she came back up to the microphone. Have her removed. Have her removed from the meeting. These people are out of control.
She just threatened me with a death threat.
Chris, don't dignify them. Just go back to your seat. Down. Yeah. Right. Richard.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I do plan to speak at open forum. In my case, once I missed the second part of Midsummer Murder, the night is shot anyway. But our behavior is reached a low point, and this is disastrous for any rational body to get into this type of behavior. And I find that counterproductive to the success of a library to have the continual hatred expressed by the proponents of the library. This is a counterproductive move.
So essentially, then, we would restore if there are any speakers who've had an opportunity, the thing that was clerically removed, to be heard at the end of 30 minutes, open forums will be continued to the end of the council meeting. I mean, that's essentially what you're asking.
Yeah, again, we disagreed on the placement of open forum. That's that's happened. That's, that ship has sailed. This is a correction to what I perceive to be a change that we didn't vote on. So I don't see that there was not a hard cap, because people could speak to infinity within that meeting. Now there's a hard cap of 30 minutes. So this is a correction. I believe that was done intentionally, and I believe there should be no cap.
So the information that Matt read at the beginning was not a vote that you were on the council to take. It was a previous council, correct, Matt?
It was in August of 18, yeah.
So it was previous council. So the previous council voted to cap it at 30 minutes. That was a vote.
No.
That's the disagreement, obviously. I mean, that's what Jill is saying. You're saying that it wasn't. So
it gets moved to the end of the meeting. It's not a cap.
I think what it is that I think for our purposes here, it's a motion to discuss. The clerk had removed. That's what you had seen that had been removed. I didn't know it had been removed. Speakers who have not had an opportunity to be heard at the end of 30 minutes, open forum will be continued to the end of the council meeting. That gets put back in. It still reads confusingly, and we'll have to come back and fix that at some point. But that change wasn't voted on. So, but I think there's two different points of view on what's going on. So
we could take a look, also take a look at that vote and find out exactly what was said, and we could make other changes. I mean, some towns and cities in our state only allow residents of the town to speak. That's something we should consider. Certainly, that might be something that'd be more beneficial for us right now. I mean, there are a lot of people that come forward, even tonight, that don't live in Narragansett. They're not taxpayers, and many towns and cities don't allow them to speak. So maybe we implement that. South Kingstown requires that speakers have to sign up in advance so that their topic is known. So if we're going to take a look at this, and Terry can certainly take a look to see what we did vote for, let's take a look at other options and be able to streamline it so that we don't need to be here until 11 o'clock at night.
So are you gonna restrict just to residents or taxpayers?
Well,
property owners.
It could be property. It could be anything. I'm not suggesting one thing or another, Patrick. I'm saying that if we're going to take a look at this 30 minutes, let's take a look, because if we want to streamline it down, so we want to be here. I don't want to listen to someone that's going to come here from Las Vegas and want to talk to us about what we should do. It's just not important to me, especially if they're not a property owner. But if we're going to make it so there's more streamlined, let's do that. But I think we still need to look at, I believe that we did vote on a 30-minute cap last August.
Thank you. Yes.
I just hear this cap. Is that actually written there, cap?
It shall be limited.
Shall be limited, but not cap, correct?
But it's important to remember that Matt has not been implementing it. It's there in writing.
No, I know. I just want corrective terminology.
Open forum portion of the council meeting shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes.
So it's limited, okay, not capped. Because those are two different words, first of all. Individuals, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, for the whole town to speak, as well as non-residents that actually use this town, like we saw tonight, I think is very important. I think that those people that you were just talking about, maybe they're not from Las Vegas, but they may be from South Kingston, and when they come into this town, they do contribute to the town.
They do, sure, but why? We are a representative government. But we don't represent the people that do not live here or do not own property.
Sure, but
here.
you represent the businesses.
But that's,
the businesses
you're
in the town that
have
have those people that come in. And
Mr. Howell, just make your statement, and then Jill will make one.
She was asking me, so I just wanted to. communicate with her. But so I'm not sure why the voters, can't speak their mind. Everybody should have the opportunity to speak. It would be nice to be able to speak about the subjects that you're going to vote on, but since you moved that to the end, it's just us just giving us, your opinion after the fact. I don't think that's constitutionally correct at all. I think our voice should be heard before you make decisions. And for the after 30 minutes, if we're taking your time, too long and it goes on to 11 o'clock and you have other things to do, well, the people here are taking their time to sit here and wait for that time to speak. I think as voted elected officials, you should be able to sit here for as long as the individuals would like to speak. So, like I said, I would move at least the 30 minutes back to the beginning before your votes so everybody could have a fair shot to just give their opinions, maybe change your minds, or offer you different suggestions or advice that may not have been thought about. And then whoever didn't speak or who was waiting in the back room who couldn't get in can come in here and speak their mind at least. I think that would help you get votes and be reelected. But if you decide not to do that later on...
Let's not do that. Let's not get reelected, please.
Well, you know what I mean? If you just kind of worked with us instead of against us, then maybe that would benefit all of you.
Matt, one point of clarification. Are individuals allowed to speak on all motions that are put on our agenda? Public comment?
No.
Typically, public comment was for items that weren't on the agenda.
No. So if a motion is on the agenda, the comment was that there's something that they cannot speak on. If there is a motion, say any of the motions we're on tonight, any person can speak on that motion when it's being discussed, correct?
Right. Yes.
That's true. That's been our tradition.
So there's plenty of time that people can speak before a decision is actually voted on for commenting when any motion is on the table. So that is something that we do.
I think the easiest thing to do is change that shall be limited to 30 minutes and change it to may be limited to 30 minutes. Matt's right, it's never enforced anyways. So just lighten up on that shall to may, and I think that solves everybody's problem.
Yeah, I mean, if no one ever, I don't even know why we're having this discussion.
Right.
I mean, we've never limited it to 30
I think
minutes.
that will solve everything.
Well, the rules are the rules, so I feel like they should be accurate. I understand, it may not go into effect often, but again, this was not a motion to reconsider anything or to change any other rules. It's just to go back to how it was before that wording was changed. And if anyone would like to add a new motion to limit it or to change anything else, everyone's able to do that. We all get one vote. Just a correction, that's all.
All right, thank you. It's a motion to discuss. All right, next is item 14, a motion to appoint two individuals to the historical. It's a motion to discuss. There's nothing to vote on.
True.
No, it's a...
Discuss.
And correct.
But we said what the unauthorized change was. Terry described it.
So is
the sentence is in. She described, there was never a vote of the council to change that.
Oh, so that'll be corrected then. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Item 14 is a motion to appoint two individuals to the Historical Cemetery Commission. Is there a motion to appoint Mike Millen and Elaine Stannard?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'll join them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next is the open forum portion of our meeting. This is to comment on issues that are going on in the town, and comments are restricted to 3 minutes. Yes, Mr. Howell.
Surf's up.
All right, so I just wanted to speak on a decision that was approved last meeting for the $19,000 of sand to be placed on the beach. I just wanted to oppose that. I just wanted to give you guys some insight on that gravel. There's problems with that gravel. It's sand, but it's gravel sand. It's not beach sand. Our beach sand consists of shells, Atlantic corals that are all grinded up, not gravel from a gravel pit that's turned into sand. There are a few problems with that sand. It is unnatural. And if we look at the different beach environments and the animals that use that beach environment, such as clams and other animals that use that environment, that sand is actually detrimental to them. It's not natural, all right? It's also moving. I took pictures from last year after they put down the gravel over the rocks on the far southern side of the actual beach, and within 2 days I have pictures of the rocks being exposed. It's washed away. Where does it go? Well, it goes a little bit offshore and makes some sandbars, but it also goes into the river mouth. The river mouth is getting clogged. There's problems with vessels navigating through the river. There's also, the river is dying. I don't know if you know this, but when you choke off the river, the stripers can't go up there and breed, and we do have breeding classes of stripers and also holdover stripers. When your big holes used to hold a lot of winter flounder back in the day, those holes are filling in now. Those habitats are disappearing. Winter flounder is a real problem in this state, and there's very limited access to fish for that, except for Narrow River. There's also algae in there right now. I went in there the other day, and there's just tons of algae all the way up to Gilbert Stewart. I mean, let alone you can't throw a rod without getting algae before you get a fish. But that algae, that green algae, is taking the O2, the oxygen, away from the water. There has been a dredging project, and everybody really thought that dredging project was going to be something that was going to open up the mouth, but it really didn't. What it did was just put the sand up onto the estuaries, which is great, but it didn't really solve the problem that I'm looking at. Solutions: we need to dredge the river. We need to put the river dredgings back on the beach. We need to make an artificial reef off of Coast Guard. This town has looked at different work forums and for 20 years about different things, different considerations, but we're just still putting $19,000 worth of sand on the beach that's not even native to our beach. If we can just come to a conclusion on how we can fix this, there's some other things for erosion. Your beach is getting eroded away. It's not overcrowding. It's actually that the high tide's coming up, there's sea level rise, and your beach is getting eroded away. You replenish the dunes right in front of the middle parking lot. It would be nice to actually also put the dunes on the south side and limit that parking. Changing the parking to do a different configuration, maybe residential parking in the middle and also on the other side, but maybe some metered parking on Ocean Road.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, since my attempt to employ a mediator for the library dispute failed, it is time to consider an arbitrator for this endless and divisive dispute. I've been following this rather closely since 2014, and I am a member of the Narragansett Finance Committee, which has long asked to review the library situation, but no call has come to the committee. I will make the arbitrating decision. The library would be limited to the 15,500 square feet, the old IGA market, period. The liquor store will remain a liquor store. There will be no work done on the second floor. And I believe it's only useful for storage if you can find people who can bring it up those stairs. This proposal will be limited to a cost of $5.8 million, the bond issue, and the $1.3 million planned donations. No work will start without the planned donations in place. I don't think the town will find a buyer for this white elephant, for this shuffleboard court, and the liquor store for anywhere near the $2.8 million expended. It isn't cheap to maintain these 3 separate structures. I don't know what the cost is. Someone, the town has to bear this. The town has greatly reduced its financial flexibility with the $2.8 million purchase. The divisiveness, and we just saw it tonight again, is weakening the chances for a bond issue at a reasonable interest rate. If the people who are, in my view, behaving in a rather irrational manner are causing great problems with the interest rate. And this is recorded, and this is not healthy. Let's end this dispute by hiring me for no cost as an arbitrator. But this will cause everybody in the room to say, what a horrible decision. But that's important, because an arbitrator makes decisions that are unliked by everybody.
Thank you. Yes, Carlene.
Carlene Town, Wood Hill Road. At the last town council meeting, Mr. Davis opined that 4 of the 5 initiatives were invalid. The last one because it was directed at a specific decision action properly exercised by the town council. So why didn't he opine at the January 22nd meeting that the motion to sell the Belmont building was invalid because it was in direct conflict with a specific decision action properly exercised by the previous town council? The Belmont building was purchased with the specific intent of renovating it for a new state-of-the-art library here in Narragansett. In past meetings, excuse me, Mr. Davis stated that bond counsel said that the bond was location specific, but at the last meeting he vacillated on that question. Isn't it time to get a legal ruling on that issue? Was the bond location specific or was it not? And speaking of the Belmont building, I'm sorry, Richard, but I'm tired of you muddying the waters with your semantic battle over the name of the property the Gilbane Group sold to the town. It is not 3 useless structures, as you have called it. It was sold to the town as 2 parcels with a $2.4 million price tag for one and a $400,000 price tag for the other. And you keep referring to the upper floor as the shuffleboard room. If only an RFP had been issued, we might have been shown how that shuffleboard room could have been incorporated into the modern library that this town deserves. I'm not an architect or an engineer, and I don't believe Richard or anyone on the town council is either. So let's let the experts decide the validity of using that property for the library. And why don't we have an RFP and cost estimates for renovating the Belmont IGA site? The answer is, folks, all you have to do is look at the 3 council members on the right side of the stage. They would have vetoed any RFP proposed by Mr. Pugh or Mr. Murray, and that veto would have tabled the motion forever unless one of the 3 had had a change of heart and resubmitted it. Highly unlikely. Sort of like a snowball's chance and you know where. And Ms. Lawler, yes, we all can speak to the motions, but we need open forum to speak to items that are not motions. We're always cautioned to speak to the motion when the motion is there, but we cannot speak to motions, our minds about things that are going on in Narragansett if they're not related to a motion, if we do not have the time in open forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Stanley. Wait, Stanley, did you already speak open forum?
No, I spoke on his motion. Stan Wachowski, Narragansett. No, I spoke on the I just became aware of that we have after-school events that happen until 7 p.m. I was picking up my grandson the other day, and I was picking up at 7 p.m., and there he was outside playing with 3 or 4 other kids because I was late. And there are events at the schools, peer schools specifically, that are taking place with children out in the schools at 7 p.m. And so I'd like to take this time to say I really want to commend the library staff for such a good job they've done. They have implemented events and have served families so well in this community. And that's what I want to speak to now. It's the people, not the building. The people are so good, and they're so good at what they do. So I want to propose that we let the library staff expand a little bit. And I want them to utilize all the facilities available, namely the libraries of the schools. Each school has a library. We have 3 libraries in our schools. I want our staff to expand a little bit and serve each library in the school. And what's good about this is that they can target their events for the specific age groups and their interest. So when they show a movie, it'll be a movie that's interesting for a 10-year-old or an 18-year-old, whatever. So they can target their specific groups and better serve our families that way as they target the groups at the school. And also, the children, they don't need to go home at 2 or 3 o'clock. It's much better if they can have something they enjoy at that facility. Now they'll enjoy going to school. Hey, it's great going to school. We're going to have fun after school. So there's a benefit for having the library do its work at the school buildings. And I think we ought to implement that first. Let's do that first and see how well that works while we're going over this new building. I hear about building. No, staff. Staff did the job, not the buildings. Now, you can deal with trying to figure out costs on buildings and what to do up buildings. We can do that anytime, fine. It might be 2020, I don't know. But right now, let them go to the schools and do their job. The other issue I'll just speak to quickly is 67%. I hear 67%. There is 15,868 people in this town. 50, what have I got up over here?
Stanley,
5,109 voted for it. 32% of the residents in this town voted for that bond.
Thank you,
32%,
Stanley.
not 67.
Thank
So let's
you.
give them the library. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive. I actually wasn't going to speak again, but you know, I just got back from a babysitting stint for my sister's grandkids in Florida. And with this library thing, it's like I'm hypersensitive to all the libraries that I see that are so much better physically, just never mind whatever's going on, than ours. I was in a town, Edgewater. It's about the same size as our town, not very affluent at all. They had a lovely library. It's simple, you know, but it's large enough. And the programs they were offering, computer, financial planning, I mean, it was amazing. New Smyrna Beach, a little bit higher income, I'd say more comparable to our town. The library is 3 times the size of our library. Port Orange, that thing was like a palatial estate, but they're more like a Newport kind of thing. But I don't see why we can't get a library that would reflect the quality of life that we really want in this town. And I think that's part of what people voted for. They wanted, you know, we talk about housing, affordable housing, attracting families. A library is at the very core of a community, and I see all these, I mean, I was in, the Villages, forget that, that's like super deluxe. But it's just, I guess I just have library envy. I look at all these other towns and I say, why not us?
Thank you. Yes.
Ellen Quema, 109 Westmoreland Street. I just saw you roll your eyes at me.
He rolled his eyes to me because I said to him, we're almost at a half hour right now. And he rolled his eyes to me. You missed, if you saw that, he was very much to me.
I saw you roll your eyes. I mean, you talk about being respectful. That's not very respectful.
I'm okay with him rolling his eyes to me.
I rolled my eyes earlier.
Anyway, what I'm going to address is, first of all, you talked about earlier about open forum and designating if somebody lives in the town or not. I would also like to add, are you going to also point out the people who live in the town but don't vote? That's what's done in other towns in other states. So if you want to point out the people who do not actually live in the town, then you should also point out the people who do not actually vote in the town. And as far as I want to address also about the use of the library, the libraries in the schools. First of all, our current staff is not certified to be in the schools. So if you want that done, then the people here need to address that to the schools. I suggest that they bring that issue to the open forum when the school committee has their meetings, because the current staff is not certified to work in the schools. And if you are in the schools, as most of us who are parents who have been in all three schools, each library is specific to those grades. So you just don't all of a sudden turn an elementary school library into an adult library. They are very specific to the bookshelves, to the computers, and the programs that are put in there, and they are all adjusted to the space. So if you want that done, then I suggest you talk to the school committee about that. And then lastly, I mean, as far as the shuffleboard in the second floor, again, I suggest that you get an architect in there and you do an RFP. And also, too, I want to state what I have always stated every time I speak up with you. The library board has always been open to talking to you. We've always been willing to talk to you. I have not seen you ever, the three of you on the right side, in our building or the town's building. And we are willing to work with you. And to say that we are an angry group of people just isn't true. You need to be able to come and talk to us as much as we have tried to reach out to you. And you just absolutely refuse to do that. You rather sit up there when we try to voice our opinion, you call us an angry mob. And that's not true. Jill, I see you rolling your eyes at me.
I'm looking at the clock, and it says 3:07. Your time is up.
Okay. And I would maybe suggest the next time when somebody else speaks beyond that, that you remind them as well.
You bet I will.
I asked for people's name and address. I'm assuming the people who give their name and address are telling me their real name and address. I'm not going to put them up to testify and put their, if they lie about their address.
I didn't give my name and address?
No, you said, you talked about names and addresses and why it's done.
I'm suggesting what Jill Lawler referred to, that when people get up and speak, they need to designate themselves if they live in the town or not.
And I said that I asked for name and address, and my assumption is people are telling me their name and address that's accurate. I'm not going to have the solicitor make them testify as to their address.
Well, all I'm saying is if you want to designate people who live in the town who don't, then I'm just asking, are you also going to ask if that's what they do in other towns?
Matt, the time's over. I mean, we're already into a half hour of open forum. And I make a motion to close the meeting. We're more than a half hour in. You're not a resident of the town. We've already made you aware of that.
Go ahead.
I'm Tracy Weingartner, and I don't live in this town. So it's fortunate for me that Ms. Lawler had me researched, because you know that there's nothing you can do. You can't get rid of my pension, you can't fire me, you can't not let me be part of a board, because I don't live in this town. I nearly live in the library. The angry mob situation, the accusations of divisiveness, the conversations that you interpret and say, poor me, everybody's picking on me. Angry mobs are created by petty dictators. No one would be taking your time at this time of night if you were doing what you were hired to do. You have created this. You have two puppets that are helping you, and I really hope 10 years from now you realize your legacy is that you delayed for 2 years the fabulous library that will be in this town. Your political careers are over. God knows how you hold up your faces in this town. I don't know. It is unbelievable. Thank you.
Matt, motion to adjourn.
You know, I'm just going to say one thing. Eileen mentioned, Eileen mentioned that I have not reached out. I did go to the library. I've mentioned that many times. So just that mischaracterization. I did go to the library in 2017. When the 40 of you were there. Lori, was right when I first started expressing my concerns about the deal. And then I went to the session in the middle of January that I went to, where there was an open forum essentially on the library. And what you just saw, that treatment, that's how it was treated. That's why I call it an angry mob. The next thing is a motion to retire to executive session of the town council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 42-46-5, subsection A, real estate, acquisition or lease of real property for public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held property in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A5. First, a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, roll call vote. Mr. Pugh?
Jesse Pugh, aye.
Mr.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Mr. Mannix, aye.
Jill Lawler, aye.
Richard Lima, aye.
Thank you, everyone.